Every drill we do the same drills everybody in America does. And again, that's the other frustrating thing is we've practiced really well, and it just hasn't shown up on game day consistently. And I think some of it too is you have a team of young people that's been affected by disappointment. They've been affected by failure, been affected by criticism and noise, and you do everything you can to guard against that, but they're young people. And sometimes, that can all of a sudden you're playing tight, you're doing too much, you're trying too hard, and hasn't gone the way you want. And you can get frustrated. So, they're learning a lot of lessons, through this. They're equipping themselves and learning a lot of lessons that will pay off for them, as they move through this season, as they move through their life. Certainly young guys on this team, they're learning a lot too.
That was Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney spoke. He said that and a lot more today, not just that minute and 6 seconds. You know better than that. Dabo Swinney is going to speak a lot longer than a minute and 6 seconds, but we react to what Dabo Swinney had to say in his weekly press conference leading the show today. I have some thoughts on what Dabo Swinney had to say, man. Really, really interesting stuff on the state of the program versus the state of the team. By the way, if you didn't know, those are two separate things according to Dabo Swinney. We'll get into that. Welcome into a Tolo Tuesday Wire to Wire. So good to be with you. I'm Cole Bryson, and I am with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Already 39 of you Tolos in the stream watching the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. A loaded show coming your way today. Well, number one, want to hear from you. As always, you are the biggest part of the show, you Tolos out there on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line at 844-326-3663. You can also call that number. But a big show coming your way today. We're going to get into the conference championships redo, a good mulligan on this Tuesday. Doesn't everybody deserve a second chance? We're going to get a mulligan today. Daily Wire's coming up a little bit later. We have upset picks, early leans. How about that? Tomorrow, the upset picks challenge opens. We'll look at a few games that have my eye as well as your eye concerning the upset picks challenge. Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central joins us every single Tuesday on the show. We might have time for a welfare check today as well. We'll also hear from Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider. MLB wildcard weekend or MLB wildcard opening round rather happening at this very moment. Detroit leads Cleveland 2-1 in that game. 4 total games today. We also will hear from Shane Beamer and what he said today, and our Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week, Blue Ridge quarterback Gavin Forrester joining us. And when I say, man, a loaded show, I mean it. So if you're going to get your thoughts in, get your opinions in, you better do it. An absolutely loaded show coming your way. But want to start with what Dabo Swinney had to say this morning in his 11 o'clock weekly press conference that he does every week. So, number one, listen, I watched the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing, and I'll have some audio pieces for you Clemson fans as well during this segment. But my number one takeaway from what Dabo Swinney had to say was, man, Dabo Swinney's tone today sounded a lot different than his tone did 2 weeks ago, when he was just absolutely criticizing anybody that would listen and telling anybody that would listen how great this program's been for the past decade or two. So when it comes to what Dabo Swinney said today, number one, that's my biggest takeaway. His tone was a lot different today. Not meaning that he sounded down and out and depressed, but it did not sound like the same Dabo Swinney that you heard 2 weeks ago. Now, where I think we'll spend most of the time on today's show in this segment concerning what Dabo Swinney said, where I think we'll spend most of the time is what Dabo Swinney said about the program versus what you're seeing on the field. You might say to me, Cole, I didn't know those were two different things. Well, yes, they are, evidently, according to Dabo Swinney. What are your thoughts on that, Tolo? So here's what I mean by that. And I'm going to get to some direct quotes from Dabo Swinney today. Let's start with this one. Dabo Swinney said, just kind of reset on what we are going to do. Dabo Swinney says the team hopes to play well together and play complementary football moving forward. Swinney also says the best way he can describe the 1-3 start is that it has been a coaching failure. That's a big, big piece of what he said. We'll spend some time on that as well. He also added that the players are being held accountable too, but it starts with the coaching and starts with himself. Dabo Swinney said today that when players aren't playing up to their capabilities, it's a reflection on the coaching. So this is where I want to get into the weeds a little bit on what Dabo Swinney said today. Dabo said, program-wise, I don't think we could be better. With this team at this moment, we have failed as coaches. And Dabo Swinney, if you listen to the press conference today, he was really big on the program and what you're seeing on the field being two completely different things. And that's what I want to know from you Tolos out there at 844-FAN-PHONE, FANFONE, if you agree with that sentiment or not. Because I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it, but I want to know if you agree that you can categorize where the program is in a completely separate category than what's actually happening on the field. Let me hear your thoughts on that at 844-326-3663. Dabo Swinney says play calling hasn't been good enough. I quote, there are a lot of plays that are there that we haven't made. Still, that's on us as coaches. There have been good and bad play calls. We are 1-3, so it just hasn't been enough. Dabo Swinney was also talking about North Carolina and how impressed he was, of course, as he does each week. Talks up that staff and that team. We'll get into that, but I really want to spend time on what he said with the program. Dabo Swinney several times in this audio today, in this press conference, said that the program was arguably in a better spot than it's ever been. Again, these aren't my words. Before you start fussing at me, this is what Dabo Swinney had to say, the head football coach at Clemson. He said he didn't know if this program had ever been in a better spot than it is today. He was very adamant to help people understand that what you're seeing on the field is evidently not a direct reflection of the program. That surprised me. Does that surprise you? I thought what you saw on the field on Saturdays was indeed a direct reflection of the program. That's the way I look at it, right? If I go to a restaurant 4 times in a row and the food is horrible, the service is horrible, and then all of a sudden the owner's trying to tell me, Cole, look, I promise the restaurant's never been in a better spot. Well, after 4 trips to that restaurant where I've had horrible experiences, it's going to be tough to convince me that your restaurant has never been in a better spot. That's what Dabo Swinney did today. That's what Dabo Swinney said today, that this program has never been in a better spot. He said that what's happening on the field is football stuff. And while, yes, it is football stuff that's happening on the field, I rebuke what Dabo said by saying, well, guess what? The football stuff that is or is not happening on the field is a direct reflection of the program, whether good or bad. You can't sit here today on this Tuesday and convince me that the football stuff, the 1-3 that's happening on the field, is completely different than the state of the program. This is not 2 separate things. The football program is 1-3. Like, we're not just going to allow Dabo Swinney to completely be off the hook and say, well, the program's never been in a better spot. Dabo, that's not true. The program is what is on the field. That's my biggest problem with what he said today. You cannot sit here and act like what's on the field is not a direct reflection of the program. I get that you might be shaping young men, molding them, and everybody in that locker room may love you. I get that, and I have no problem with that. But guess what? Your job, the reason that ultimately you're hired, is to win football games. You won 2 national championships. People celebrate those national championships. Whether you like it or not, fans don't celebrate how many players turn their life around. That's all great. We all love hearing that. That's feel-good stories. But ultimately, we care about wins and we care about losses. And you can't sit here on this Tuesday and try to convince us, me, you, that what's happening on the field is not a direct reflection of the program. To me, those are not 2 separate things. 1-3, your program. Guess what? Your program is 1-3. If you feel like there's a lot of good things happening behind closed doors, fine, great. But the reason you're there is to win football games, and you haven't won football games. That's just my 2 cents. What do you think? Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Clemson fans, non-Clemson fans, it doesn't matter. Want to hear from you at 844-326-3663. Phone lines are open. Hub City Spartanburgers text line is open. A lot of comments already on the stream. 56 of you Tolos watching the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So many different ways to interact. Let's go to the stream first. I see Dan B. I see JB. I see Kane. Kane says, did you know Clemson has won championships the last 14 years? Did he say that today, Kane? Was that part of what he said today? He might have. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong there. JB says, well, you can coach a quarterback that's been in the program for 4 years, but if he isn't performing for 4 years, he's not the guy. Kane goes on to say, because I didn't know that. I'm glad Dabo said something about it. You're just talking about stating the obvious, Kane? Is that what you're talking about there? JB says, Dabo is full of poop emojis saying that. You mean he thinks his program is in a better place than 2018 when they slaughtered Bama for the national championship 44-16? He is delusional. MD75 puts a point up to JB's comment, I guess agreeing with what JB had to say. Again, I want to read JB's again. Dabo, again, this comes from JB on the YouTube stream. Dabo is full of poop emoji saying that. You mean he thinks this program is in a better spot, in a better place than 2018 when they slaughtered Bama for the national championship 44-16. He is delusional. That comes from JB on the YouTube stream. So that's the conversation we are having right now on the show. That's the conversation. And again, my whole thing is, as long as I've ever been allowed to talk behind a microphone, my biggest thing that I want to help Clemson fans do is change how they get their news, change how they get their fandom, change how they get their reporting from a very biased, very slated point of view to a, I can actually take my orange-colored glasses off for a change and actually be critical of my program. I've always been that way, and I'm the same way today for any Clemson fan out there listening. I know you listening, if you're a Clemson fan, you've been conditioned for a very long time for anything that Dabo Swinney says, you agree with it, you repost it, you retweet it, you screenshot it, you save it as your background, you send it to your cousin, you put it on your yard sign. That's what you do. That's how you've been conditioned by so many members of the media. However, I have begged you, Clemson fans that listen to this show, please don't be that way. Please don't be that fan base. Please don't be that guy. Be able to actually have an opinion for yourself. Be able to be critical of a program. And what you hear today from Dabo Swinney, I want to be very clear. I like Dabo Swinney a lot. The guy, what he stands for, what he does for student athletes, I love it. I do. I know you may say, well, Cole, it doesn't sound like it, but I do love what Dabo Swinney stands for. But we should not, as media members, think it's okay for Dabo Swinney to create this lie that the football program is different than what you're seeing on the field. And guess what? He's going to do it. There are media members today that are going to say, you know what? Dabo Swinney's right. Dabo Swinney is 100% right. The program is in a good spot. Just what you're seeing on the field is not in a good spot. And guess what? Dabo Swinney is going to be able to convince you Clemson fans out there that are listening today that he's right. He's right. We're still a really good program. We're still an elite program. It's just that for whatever reason, what you're seeing on the field, it's football stuff. It's not translating. Dabo Swinney is going to be able to convince so many of you that that's the case because you're sheep. You follow whatever he says. You listen to the station that tells you what to believe, and you just do. You get in line and you do what you're supposed to do, you Clemson fans. I have never been that type of fan. I've never been that type of fan. I don't want to be that type of fan. I want to be the type of fan that formulates my own opinion, that is able to remove those glasses and actually have a fair viewpoint on things, right? You're more than welcome to try, but you just can't convince me today that what you're seeing on the field isn't a direct reflection of the program. We're not going to allow Dabo Swinney to categorize the two as separate beings. They're not separate beings. They're the same. They're the exact same. Your on-the-field product is a direct reflection of your football program. That's just a fact. Kane on YouTube says, if Dabo has a great football program, and by the way, Tolos, Kane's a Clemson fan, just so you know. And I like Kane for this because he's very rational. He says if Dabo has a great football program and isn't winning games, someone or multiple people are not abiding by the standards of the program. Maybe because they don't believe in the program anymore. JB says they might as well walk Dewey out there every Tuesday morning and let him talk to the media about Clemson football. Wouldn't be any different. Dewey, you're not going to let him talk about you like that, are you? Chef That on YouTube says Dabo forces us to lie his dream as a fan or live his dream as a fan. It's not fair. We're all ready for a change to a new age of football. The nice guy act is old. Kane says the thing that makes me the most sick is the players coming out for their press conferences and regurgitating the same talking points as Dabo, knowing they don't believe it. Chef That says, think about this. Dabo's 1A, only good coaching call was sitting Kelly Bryant on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-326-3663. Let's see what you are saying. Let's see. Texter from the 809 says, I'm old. I remember Ken Hatfield getting fired at Clemson after going 9-3. So what we heard today is the definition of blowing smoke. Dabo gets away with it. Nobody else did. Jay Butane on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, test it. Where is the recruiting class ranked? Not first. Then STFU Dabo. That comes from Tolo J. Butane. Bible Man on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, not enough effort out of the players. Dabo needs to light a fire under them. And Tolo J. Butane, I think you bring up a really good point. And I would have loved for somebody out there today to ask the question that you kind of hinted at right there. I would have loved for somebody out there to kind of ask the question that relates to what you just sent in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, Tolo J. Butane, about the program. What question is that? What follow-up question do I think should have been asked today? I'll tell you what that question is next.
Saturday, beginning with a Pepsi countdown to kickoff at 12:30. Kick is at 2 p.m. Furman at ETSU, and catch all the action all season long via the Fan Upstate.
The ball's in your court. Sound off now at 844-FAN-PHONE.
This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Well, Tolo J. Butane on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line brought up a good point about the discussion we were having on the show about Dabo Swinney's press conference from earlier today. If you just tuned in, maybe you just got off work, you're just now heading home. Oh, look, the sun's out, by the way. Good to see that. We were having the discussion about Dabo Swinney's press conference and Dabo Swinney basically saying that the program and what happens on the field is two different things. So if you're just now tuning in, would love to hear your thoughts. 844-326-3663. Tolo J. Butane on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line said, test it. Where is the recruiting class ranked? Not first, ... then STFU Dabo. Again, that came from Tolo J. Butane. I think that's a good point because I would have loved for there to have been a follow-up question today in the press conference. But, of course, there's not going to be difficult questions asked to Dabo Swinney. I would have loved for there to have been a follow-up question. And somebody said, well, Dabo, if you feel like your program is potentially in the best spot it's ever been, what are you basing that off of? What are the facts there? What are you because you've got good players, because you've got good coaches, you've got good leaders of men. And again, I want to be very clear. I am very, very, very very much in agreement with a lot of the things that Dabo Swinney believes in, practices, and preaches. I'm in agreement with a lot of the things that Dabo Swinney says, especially about his character and his faith and all that. I love that. But just because I agree with you on your character and your faith doesn't mean I'm not going to call you out when you spew BS like you did again today. Shocker, right? And I think there are a lot of things that Dabo Swinney says that I agree with. And I know you're probably sitting here watching the show or listening thinking, well, hadn't heard that yet, Cole. But the point of the conversation is Dabo Swinney on this Tuesday saying that he believes this program is in as good of a spot as it's ever been. I just think Tolo J. Butane brings up a great point. And Tolos, if you agree with what Dabo said, I'd love to hear from you at 844-326-3663. Caller, I saw you calling in a minute ago. We lost you. So if you want to call back, you can hit us back up. Again, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's FANFONE. I just would love to know what Dabo Swinney believes, why Dabo Swinney believes that this program is in a better spot today than it's ever been. Fans, for the most part, care about what? Fans care about wins and fans care about losses. Am I saying that fans don't want the student athletes to be good leaders of men? No. Am I saying that fans don't want high graduation rates? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is those are like all of the things on the outside that add to the main dish, right? Like you've got this beautiful spread on Thanksgiving coming up, this big deep fried turkey that everybody's waiting just to devour. That's the meat and potatoes. That's the wins. That's the losses. People don't show up to Thanksgiving because of the things way on the outside of the table, right? People show up to Thanksgiving because they want good, juicy turkey. That's what they want. The point being, your job as a football coach is to win. That's the meat and potatoes. That's the turkey. That's the meat. Your job is to win. All that other stuff, graduation rates, players being developed, that's great. That all goes on the outside or even on that other table because the main table is so full, you have to put that over there on the counter and on the keep warm option on the stove. That's fine. But that's not the reason you're there. The reason you're there is to win games, Dabo. We didn't hire you to come in and have great graduation rates. We didn't hire you to come in and tell us about how great these young men are in your program. We didn't hire you to go on rants about how wonderful you've done and this program's been over the past 2 decades. We hired you to win now and adapt and change and evolve, and you're not doing that. Instead, you're going on rants. Instead, you say today that you feel like the program's in a better spot than it's ever been. Clemson fans, come on. You just can't convince me that you actually believe that, do you? Do you really believe that? And if so, I'm not going to belittle you. I promise I would love to hear from you. If you really believe that mess that's spewed today, I would love to hear from you. I'd love for you to try to convince me that I'm the idiot, that everything I've said in the past 30 minutes is not true. Please try to tell me. By the way, really close game right now. American League wild card game 1. Detroit leads Cleveland 2-1. Top of the 9th, 1 out, 2 runners on for the Tigers, and that place. Like the whole place, everybody's standing up. It looks like a great environment. So some really good baseball on already. Let's see what you are saying on the stream where you can watch the show. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. 94 Tolos watching the show right now. T Swizzle says, Dabo is low-key cocky AF. JB agrees with that. Let's see here. JB says they asked him today if he reached out to any other coaches about advice dealing with this kind of start of the season. And he says the only man he talked to was the man upstairs. That's the only man he talked to about it. And again, I want to be very clear. I have no problem with Dabo being as strong as he is in his faith. I admire that. I respect the heck out of it. I really do. I promise. Have no issue with that. But like I said, you're there to win games. And when you're winning games, fans, they'll put up with that. They don't care. That's fine. But when you're not winning games, you better not come with that stuff. Let's see. Kane says Dabo's reasoning is graduation rates being the result of a great program and 14 years of winning championships. Fagora Tom on Facebook says, Dabo, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. That's funny, Tom. Appreciate you. Good to hear from you. Hadn't heard from you in a while. Good to see you on the stream. Let's go to the phone lines. 844-326-3663. I am solo today, so if you will, tell me your name when I bring you on the air. Who we got?
This is Dewey.
Hey, Dewey.
And I got something to say about the Dabo situation.
Okay.
He should be fired on the spot for making a complete bad word of himself. He gets up there, he's alienating the fans. He's alienating the media, which the media, they're scared of him. They don't ask him tough questions. They're scared of him. They're probably afraid that Dabo's going to have them banned or something. And then he's going to get up there and talk about graduation rates and all his little nerdiness. No one cares about that. The people who are spending thousands of dollars in these seats don't care about nothing about that. If you're losing, they don't want nothing. They don't care who's graduating. When you're winning, they don't care who's graduating either.
Tell them, Dewey. Tell them.
And and the boosters and all of them, they need to look at him. At this rate, I would almost say he's going to lose to Bill Belichick. Because Bill Belichick's going to bring the party.
They're not that bad.
And the cheerleaders.
They're not that bad, Dewey.
But Bill Belichick is a straight up more of a manly man than Dabo. Dabo's a grade A nerdling who needs to go, and it's time to move on from him. Oh.
Thanks, Dewey. 844-326-3663. RJ on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, something that bothered me during Dabo's presser today was his response when asked if he had talked to anyone for advice. He said the man upstairs was his answer. How arrogant is that? Look, I don't really expect Dabo Swinney to reach out to people to try to get advice on what to do or how to handle this situation. I think that's hard to do. I think you have to I think that takes some of your pride away. Maybe he should have, but I think that's a pride thing, right? You don't want to have to reach out to anybody and say, look, man, we're down bad. We're 1-3. What should I do? You just don't want to have to do that. So I don't necessarily criticize Dabo for not doing that. Ultimately, though, it's just this whole thing about the program being in a different category than what you're seeing on the field. He also said one other point before we move away from Dabo. I did want to get to this. He talked about the coaching. And I don't know if you know this or not. Dabo Swinney is the head coach, FYI. I thought this was really impactful. Let me find this tweet here. This quote from Dabo. Oh, here it is. David Hood, TigerNet.com, posted this. I retweeted it at the Cole Bryson. Swinney says this is a total coaching failure and that he hired the coaches in place. He is asked if any responsibilities might change, and he says, no, it's not the time for that. But Dabo Swinney did call this season a total coaching failure. I thought that was interesting, didn't you? Because, I don't know, last time I looked, Dabo Swinney is the head coach. And if you believe this season has been a total coaching failure, that starts with you, Dabo. Starts with you. He said that. Those were his words, not mine. He said today that this season has been a total failure on the part of the coaching staff. On the part of the coaching. So ultimately, that's a direct reflection on Tom Allen, on Garrett Riley, CJ Spiller, pretty much everybody. I don't even want to start naming names. A direct reflection on everybody. By the way, the Cleveland Guardians just, with no outs in the bottom of the ninth, just tripled. Ramirez did. A no-out triple. The go-ahead run is now at the plate. This is, if you're not watching this game, this has been a lot of fun to open up the postseason slate. It's 2-1 Detroit leads. But you're now looking at a man on third with no outs. This could get juicy. This could get really, really juicy. So, look, the total coaching failure aspect of it's interesting because ultimately he did hire Tom Allen. He did hire Garrett Riley. He did hire the 100 Clemson staff, the 100 former Clemson staff members that it feels like are on that staff. I know 100 is a bit of an exaggeration. That's what it feels like, right? But he did hire him, and he calls this a total coaching failure. That's what Dabo Swinney calls this. I believe I do appreciate what Kane brought up with putting the responsibility on himself. I appreciate that. I think that's where it starts and stops. Ultimately, as a coach, your program, the buck stops with you, right? So I do appreciate Dabo taking ownership of that. And I want to say one more thing. If you're a Clemson fan and you're listening to me in the in this first hour of the show today, and you don't agree with anything I've said, I still want you to listen to the show. I still appreciate you listening to the show. I just have gotten to the point where I'm so sick and so tired of the same BS, the same things that are said every single Tuesday. If you've listened to one Dabo presser, you've listened to 100, and I've gotten so sick and tired of the Clemson media telling you fans and hyping you fans up and hyping the program up and telling you it's all going to be okay. And then now all of a sudden the team's 1-3, the program is 1-3. And, there are some that are, maybe everything's not sunshine and rainbows. You don't say. No kidding. That's what I've been trying to say all this time. Be fair. You can be critical of your own team. And there are a lot of Clemson fans out there. Kane's one of them. There are a lot of Clemson fans out there that are very unbiased in the sense of they can take the orange glasses off and see reality for what it is. There's a lot of fans out there that can do that, and I appreciate those fans. However, it just makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I have a lot of friends who are this way. The Clemson fans that are so loyal to Dabo, so loyal to the program, that it's just their loyalty is unwavering regardless of what happens. And I'm just so sick of it. I really am. So that's that. That's my rant on Dabo Swinney today. My biggest problem, to put a bow on it, my biggest problem is Dabo trying to sell the lie that the program and what you're seeing on the field is two separate things. Let's see if the Guardians can tie this thing up. Let's go live to the action.
Is the only one that left the infield.
Little playoff baseball, by the way, if you're not watching. Unbelievable game right now. The Tigers and the Guardians. It's 2-1. Detroit leads 2-1 over Cleveland. Bottom of the ninth, a runner on third, one out. The go-ahead run is at the plate for Cleveland. Let's see what they do.
Chopper back to the mound. They have Ramirez in a rundown. This tags him out.
So Ramirez tagged out on third he was about halfway between third and home plate. He's tagged out. So that runner is gone. 2 outs now and a runner on first. That's brutal for Cleveland. Brutal base running there to try to have an opportunity to win this game or at least tie the game. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. A loaded show today, man, and a lot of really good baseball as well. On the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line, let's see what I've missed here. Trey in Kentucky says, it's talking about Dabo being a incumbent politician. The state of the program has never been. Yeah, that's right. You're right about that, Trey in Kentucky. It does sound like a little bit of political for Dabo to talk like that, right? The state of the program's never been better. RJ says, ask on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. RJ asks, have you seen the list of salaries for all the Clemson football staff released by Tiger Illustrated? Some of these folks aren't earning those paychecks, to put it nicely, says RJ. And by the way, the Tigers get the third out and win the first wild card game over the Guardians. Tigers, even though they had a little bit of a shaky landing to end the season, the Detroit Tigers do get the first win of the MLB postseason. What a freaking game that was. What a game. Michael on Facebook says, Dabo has done more for Clemson in the past 15 years than any other coach has. He has earned a bad year or two. Michael, he has done more for the program, without a doubt. There's no doubt. I agree with you there. He's done more for that program than any other coach. He'll go down as the greatest football coach ever at Clemson. You're not going to get an argument from me on that. However, Michael, what I will say is the same coach that asked why they're being held to a different standard is the same coach that set best as the standard, and that's the same coach that's not living up to best is the standard. That's my final thoughts on that. Daily Wires next. Well, every single day on this show, we do a segment. I do a segment today because Diesel is on vacation this week. He'll be back next week, so I am still solo with you. But I'm not really solo because you Tolos are absolutely doing a terrific job, a fantastic job with the interaction on the show today. So appreciate you for that. Monday Night Football, the Dolphins defeated the Jets 27-21, while the Broncos defeated the Bengals 28-3. Some bad football last night, right? Just wasn't the greatest of games. Some bad teams there. Speaking of bad news, Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, man, did you see that injury last night? That was rough, wasn't it? Dislocated his left knee during Monday night's 27-21 win over the Jets. He was hospitalized overnight while undergoing further testing on the season-ending injury, according to Coach Mike McDaniel. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter on Tuesday morning that Hill also tore multiple ligaments in his knee, including his ACL, and will have surgery later in the day. Just terrible, terrible news there for Tyreek Hill. Sauce Gardner, star cornerback, believes officials are picking on him. That's right. He claimed it's because the Jets are a losing team. Gardner, penalized for pass interference in a 27-21 loss to the Dolphins on Monday, said he's personally frustrated. It was the second week that he was flagged for PI. He said, I watch football all the time, and I just feel like, I don't know if this is the wrong time to say, but I think I get called for more stuff just based on us not winning. Gardner, who signed a 4-year, $120 million contract extension before the NFL training camp. Bobby Petrino, in case you missed it, cleaning house. It's like he's working at the car wash right now. He's cleaning so much. Petrino fired 3 defensive assistants just one day after being named the interim head coach at Arkansas as part of an overhaul of the Razorbacks coaching staff. He dismissed the DC, Travis Williams, the defensive line coach, Deke Adams, Marcus Woodson, just absolutely cleaning house. I guess it's like if you at your job were made boss, all the people you don't like, what are you going to do on the first day? You're going to fire them all, right? That's what Petrino's doing right now. Also in our Daily Wires, SEC Network host Paul Feinbaum said Monday that he would consider leaving ESPN to run for the U.S. Senate representing Alabama, where he now lives. The 70-year-old Feinbaum said during a recent interview with Outkick that he'd run as a Republican to fill the seat vacated by former Auburn football coach Tommy Tuberville, who has said he'll run for Alabama governor in the 2026 elections. Tuberville's current Senate term ends in 2027, and the deadline to qualify is January 26, 2026. In Gainesville, Florida has offensive help on the way with freshman receiver who just might make a difference against number 9 Texas on Saturday. Dallas Wilson practicing for the first time since injuring his left foot in camp and is scheduled to make his collegiate debut against the Longhorns. Napier called Wilson's availability a big deal. He said 3 good days of work last week, and I thought he handled the load well. Napier said he feels really good. So far, so good. In the MLB postseason today, one game has already gone final. It's the Tigers defeating the Guardians 2-1. Right now, the Padres and Cubs are going at it, where the Padres at the end of the third lead Chicago 1-0. Tonight, Red Sox, Yankees at 6 o'clock. Reds, Dodgers at 9 o'clock. A loaded slate of postseason baseball. Tolos, we are officially 24 hours away from the Upset Picks Challenge opening. And guess what? It is time for us to take a look at this weekend's games. A little upset pick early leans. That's next. Well, 24 hours from right now, the Upset Picks Challenge will open, and it will be like an absolute floodgate. I don't know how in the world. I hadn't thought about this, Dan B. I don't know if you're still watching the stream or not, but I hadn't thought about how I am going to copy and paste feverishly all the upset picks that come in onto the dock that you and I have. I may have to do it like after the show. I don't know. We'll see, because it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of Tolos ready for week 6 upset picks coming at you. Who knows, Dan B? I might have you. Are you flying tomorrow, Dan B? You want to come sit in the studio for a show tomorrow and job shadow? I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough. But the Upset Picks Challenge opens tomorrow, 24 hours from right now. And look, here's the deal. The upstate's growing. Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, it's booming. And we have a lot of new listeners every single day. I get that. So if at any point you're ever asking the question, what is this Upset Picks Challenge? Please let us know, because I do explain what it is. But I'm sure some of you new Tolos probably have not heard me or Diesel explain what it is that the Upset Picks Challenge is exactly. So, Upset Picks Challenge opening 24 hours from right now. Pretty much, it's pretty simple. It sounds simple, but it's actually difficult to do. The Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles Markets. It goes like this. You, as a college football fan, find a underdog. That means where the team is not favored to win. You find an underdog that you think will outright win the game. You send that text in tomorrow, not today, at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And then during showtime on Thursday and Friday, you send that text in to 844-326-3663. Basically, you'll send your name, the game, and the spread. So if I'm going to go Cole, Clemson +4, that's how I would send it in. Again, I know a lot of you out there don't gamble. You don't really understand lines and spreads and things like that. That's okay. We're here to help you understand how to participate in the Upset Picks Challenge. It's a lot of fun. It's really difficult as well. And Dan B just does an exceptional job. We had 8 new Tolos join the challenge last week. 1 fell off the board. We had 11 new on the board. Only 2 people with 3 in a row. So those are starting to slim down a little bit. We did not have any double-digit upsets last week for the first time this year. That's hard to believe. It took 6 weeks for that to happen. Also, 220 total players for this year. 122 of those are on the board. The last 3 weeks has been 139, 146, and 142. So let's try to get 150 this week. And those who have entered the challenge, we appreciate you. It's a lot of fun. For those that don't know, statistics show that a very, very small percentage, like 2 to 4% of your listening audience actually interact with the show. And we expect for the Upset Picks Challenge it to be a little bit higher than that 2 to 4%. But still, for those of you that don't know, a small percentage of people that listen actually interact with the show. So I know a lot of you don't interact. A lot of you have never texted the show, never called the show, and that's fine. But tomorrow, man, I am going to make a big, big push for you to enter the Upset Picks Challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I want to invite you to play along with us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So in this very segment, let's take a look at the games that you are eyeing. What game are you looking at, Tolos? We get the spreads from ESPN.com. Dan B will lock those spreads in tomorrow at 3 p.m., and we'll be off to the races. But let me know. I'm solo today, by the way. Diesel on vacation if you just tuned in. Let me know what game you're looking at. 844-326-3663. That's the way you can call the show. You can text the show. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line. By the way, I forgot to tell you, Tolos, some really fun news coming Thursday. Let's see here. I will be live this Thursday at Morgan Square Madness in Spartanburg. In previous years, this event has been in downtown Spartanburg right there on Morgan Square. But this year, for the very first time, it is being held at Fifth Third Park. So Morgan Square Madness, if you are a Spartanburg Tolo, you want to check this thing out. Maybe you didn't get a chance to see the baseball stadium during the regular season. This would be a great opportunity to do so, man. Good food, some cool events they have going on. So come out and see me on Thursday. I'd love to see you Tolos there. Again, this Thursday, October the 2nd, I'll be live at Fifth Third Park for Morgan Square Madness. Should be a lot of fun. Would love to see you there. And then Friday, obviously, Burns football on the Fan Upstate. Burns is at Riverside this week, so I'll be over there in Greer for that one. But Tolos, it's time for you to start letting me know which games you are looking at, which games you are eyeing. My upset pick did not hit last week, and I promise I'm not going to steal yours. So you might be saying, Cole, why would I tell you what game I'm looking at? I want to keep that as private information. I promise. I'm not going to steal your pick. I'm not going to do it. We have Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, joining us in about 20 minutes about 15 minutes, actually, on the show. There is one game Thursday night for you, Tolos, who might want to choose that one. And the Upset Picks Challenge Friday night, there are 5 games. Point spreads 2.5, 27.5, 2.5, 18.5, and 5.5. I don't know if you're bullish enough to take like an 18.5 point spread on Friday that favors BYU, or a 27.5 point spread on Friday night that favors South Florida over Charlotte. I'm not that ballsy. And then I don't know if you want to be so conservative that you take a 2.5 point spread, because as I explained the challenge earlier in the show, it's a rolling tally every single week. So if the game that you pick hits, that's how many points you're awarded. And if you don't hit, you lose a point. If you don't play, you lose 2 points. So it's a lot of fun to keep up with. Let's see. I'm not really eyeing any games on Friday night. I did look at the San Diego State, Colorado State game, but not much interest there for me. No interest on Thursday or Friday in terms of the Upset Picks Challenge. I don't have any interest in Kentucky or Georgia. Georgia, I think, is going to bounce back in a big, big way on Saturday after their loss to Alabama. Kentucky looked absolutely horrible on Saturday against South Carolina, so no interest in that one. I did take a look at Illinois-Purdue. Purdue is a 9.5 point dog at home at noon on Saturday. The only problem is I like Luke Altmaier for Illinois a little bit too much, and I don't like Purdue. They cost me a couple of times last year. I think I took Purdue twice in the Upset Picks Challenge. Now, I will tell you, I looked at Boston College Pitt, 12 noon on Saturday for my Upset Picks Challenge. Both bad teams. Boston College is 1-3 on the season. Pittsburgh is 2-2. Pittsburgh at home is favored by 6.5 points. That one interests me a little bit, just for the fact that like both teams are bad, and I don't really know that either team has a pulse on what their actual outlook of the season could be. I think it's two bad teams. And when two bad teams are playing, anything can happen. I know that's bad to say. Now, do any of you Tolos out there for the Upset Picks Challenge have any interest in Clemson, North Carolina at 12 noon on Saturday? It would be, by the way, it's a 13.5 point spread. So if you were to choose that game, you would send in your name, North Carolina plus 13.5. That's how you'd send in your upset pick. So I look at this game and I think to myself, North Carolina's bad. Surely off a bye, Clemson won't lose to North Carolina, right? That's my logic. But I also said the same thing against Syracuse when they were favored by, 17.5 points, and that game was never close. So I said the same thing then. That didn't work. But no interest from me in choosing Clemson, North Carolina as my upset pick game this week. I do believe that Clemson, after a bye, I think the Tigers pick up their second win of the season. I don't know if they demolish North Carolina or not, but I do think they start to get things rolling against a really bad North Carolina team. Now, here's what I do have a lot of interest in. Baylor hosting Kansas State at noon on Saturday. The reason is last Saturday I took a game with a similar point spread, like 6.5, 7.5, something like that, and it involved Kansas State. It was Kansas State UCF. Kansas State really won big. Now 2-3 on the year, 1-1 in the Big 12. I like Kansas State. Now Baylor's 3-2. I think Baylor's a little bit better of a team, but I thought Kansas State played really well last week, so I'm eyeing that one. I really am. That's one that I'm keeping my eye on. Tolos, if you just tuned in, what game are you looking at? What is your early lean tomorrow for the Upset Picks Challenge? Dewey on the stream says Syracuse is bad too. Why? Because of the quarterback going down? Well, they may be. They did get beat by Duke pretty heavily last weekend. Let's see. What else? Here? Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. I have a little bit of interest in that game. Virginia Tech at home is favored by 6.5 points. Wake Forest is 2-2 on the season. Virginia Tech 2-3 on the year. I do have a little interest there. Also looking down the slate of games in the afternoon, there's some big spreads on Saturday. Tolos, do any of you have any interest in Texas, Florida? Any of you believe that Florida could pull the upset? So here's the deal on that one. Florida, who's 1-3, by the way, they're 6.5 point dogs at home. Normally, I like a 6.5 point dog. I do. However, I don't know if I like a 6.5 point dog in this situation. Yes, they're getting some pieces back offensively that could be of help. But I do believe Texas, who comes into this game 3-1, I do believe Texas is getting better. I really do. I think Texas is getting better. So I like Texas to win and cover on Saturday, 3:30 against Florida. But I think there will be some of you Tolos out there who pick that game. I really do. Let me look at the text line real quick. Let me look at the text line, 844-326-3663. Let's see. Tigers Dakota says the Alabama-Vandy game is definitely one that I'm eyeing. Okay, let's take a look at that one. 3:30 Saturday, Alabama-Vandy. Tolos, are you eyeing this one as well? Tigers Dakota said that he was. And you know what, man? This one's an interesting game. I think I might agree with you, Tigers Dakota. I don't know how much interest I have in this one, but I do have some interest in this one. So Vanderbilt, number 16, Vandy at 5-0 comes into this game against 3-1 Alabama, who's ranked 10th. This game is at Bama. Vandy is a 10.5 point dog. Zach Breeze on Facebook says, I like Hughes, man. I'll get to that one. I hadn't looked at that one yet, Zach, to be honest with you. So I'll check that one out. But back to Vandy, Bama. I think this one's interesting. I'll park on this one for a second, Tolos. I'm going to go out on a limb. And I am going to predict, Dan B., remember this, write this down because I think this will happen. I am going to predict that Vanderbilt, Alabama is the number 1 picked selected game entry in this week's Upset Picks Challenge. That's my prediction. I think this game is chose more than any other game. I like this game. I think Vandy could win the game. And look, I think there will be a lot of Tolos out there that choose this game just for the fact that Vandy's 5-0. Vanderbilt's got that swagger. And didn't Vanderbilt beat Alabama a season ago? Yes, they did. Now, the question becomes with this game, do you believe Alabama's going to lose to Vandy twice in 2 years, back-to-back seasons? That's the question. Do you believe Alabama is going to lose to Vanderbilt back-to-back seasons? I don't. And that's why I think this game scares me a little bit. I think Bama will be up for this game in a big, big way. I really do. Dan B on the YouTube stream says, I think it'll be the UCF-Kansas game. Oh, the one that is selected more than any other game, Dan? Could be. Boise State, Notre Dame. Are you interested in a 20-point spread on Saturday, Tolos? No, thanks. I also did Virginia, Louisville. 3:30 Saturday. Virginia 4-1. They just beat Florida State last Friday night. Louisville's at home. They're a 7-point favorite at home. And on paper, a better team. But do you buy into Tony Elliott? Do you buy into momentum right now? Or do you think on the flip side of that coin that Virginia might have a letdown game after beating Florida State? That could be interesting. I also eyed Washington, Maryland on Saturday. Washington is 6.5-point favorite at Maryland. Let's see. What was the game that Dan B brought up? UCF, Kansas. Let's see here. UCF, I have not looked at that game yet. 7:30 Saturday night. Kansas favored by 5.5. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that, Dan B. In Orlando, I think you're right. That one might be a heavy pick. Jalen Daniels on the road, their favorites. Had a pretty good UCF team. Kansas 1-1 in the Big 12. UCF 0-1 in conference play. That's interesting. That's an interesting game. I don't know how I feel about that one, but could be. Let's see. Any other games, Tolos, that I've missed that you might be interested in for tomorrow's Upset Picks Challenge? Let's see. Mississippi State, A&M. A&M favored by 14.5 at home. Nah, I'm good there. Miami. I think this one, Dan B, will be picked a lot. Miami on the road's a 4.5-point favorite at Florida State. I think there will be a lot of Florida State selections tomorrow. I really do. Minnesota, Ohio State. Ohio State favored by 23.5 points. Are you kidding me? By the way, I'll be at this game, Tolos. I am going to my first ever Ohio State football game, Saturday, 7:30 at the Shoe. I'm not going to pick Minnesota, though. Are you kidding me? And then the one that Zach brought up. Zach, what was it? Q's. Let me find it. Where's the orange at, man? Where's the orange? Why can I not find Syracuse on here? You said they play who? Oh, SMU? Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. SMU Q's. Oh, here it is. 3:30 on Saturday. Q's 3-2, SMU 2-2. Oh my gosh. This is the game that you're eyeing? SMU is favored by 17.5 points at home in Dallas. And Syracuse without their quarterback, Steve Angeli. There's no way, man, right? There's no way that happens. Now, I could see them winning the game. I mean, I could see them covering the spread. I just couldn't see them winning the game. Wow. That's incredible. 17.5-point spread. So, Tolos, 24 hours from right now, the Upset Picks Challenge will be open. 844-326-3663. Save that number in your phone, will you? We are going to talk to Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. We do every Tuesday at this time. We're talking Gamecocks next.
Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate on your HD radio at WFBC HD3.
Oh, there's just one more thing.
And on your computer at
TheFanUpstate.com.
Leave your namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on The Fan Upstate.
It is time to talk a little Gamecock football with Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. He joins us every single Tuesday at this very time. Jack, how the heck are you, man?
Really good, Cole. Thanks for calling, man. And happy, what's today? Monday? I'm getting my days mixed up.
Happy Tolo Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Do you know what a Tolo is, Jack? Have I ever told you what a Tolo is?
No, what is a Tolo, man?
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. You've probably heard these when I say Tolo a lot, and you're like, what is it? What are these guys talking about? So I get asked all the time out in public, what is a Tolo? So Tolo stands for turn on, leave on. We ask our listeners every day to turn it on, leave it on, okay? So if you turn it on and leave it on, you're a Tolo. Make sense?
It does make sense.
Catchy, right? Catchy?
Yeah,
if you hate it, Jack.
I like a little acronym.
I like the acronyms. We all love acronyms. Hey, before we get into football, media advisory for what, Thursday? A little meet the Gamecocks on the hardwood. Is basketball season already here? Is it that time already, man?
Man, it's getting close. I mean, look, man, November 4th is the opening tip-off of the season for Carolina. October 26th, I believe it is. Carolina's playing a scrimmage or exhibition, I should say, against North Carolina State. So, yeah, man, season's around the corner, and October starts tomorrow. So we're officially on countdown to basketball season.
Is there more optimism, Jack? I mean, like, obviously the optimism going into last year was high because of what Lamont Paris did in his first season, but last season was disappointing. Where do you think Gamecock fans are when it comes to basketball, where their expectations are?
I would say it's a little bit lower. I mean, I think there's just not a ton of optimism just because, number one, football's going on right now.
Yeah.
You know, women's basketball is. So I think basketball is not on the back burner, but I think people are excited. It's just, I think there's a lot of cautious optimism that I don't think it can get much worse than last year, quite frankly, but you never know. I mean, crazier things can happen.
Jack, I don't know about that. You say everybody's focused on football. This 5-game stretch goes wrong. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, man, people are not going to. People are going to be turning towards fall baseball then. Hopefully, if basketball doesn't go well either.
That's right. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, joining me right here on the Fan Upstate, as he does every Tuesday at this time. South Carolina on a bye week. We'll get into that, but. Jack, tell me where I'm wrong on this. Yesterday, we talked a lot about South Carolina, their win over Kentucky. And, you know, I think Gamecock fans in the SEC and college football, you always should celebrate a win. But, man, again, tell me I'm wrong. I didn't see a ton offensively Saturday that excites me if I'm a Gamecock fan.
I'm split on it.
Okay.
I think we saw more balance from this offense. We saw what I think everyone's been wanting to see, man, is Lenora Sellers running the football. We saw that a lot more on Saturday. We saw those plays that he would make last year, and that's a really positive sign. Probably one of the bigger takeaways I have from that game is letting Lenore's cut loose a little bit, like everyone's been wanting him to do.
Yep.
And that's what we saw on Saturday. Now, I think the passing game continues to it was Sellers was fine in the passing game. He didn't need to do too much. So I think you try to build him up to be that passer that we saw against Missouri, but also let him be that runner. And I think that's going to be the best version of this offense. But the way in which you kind of need to do that to be able to run the football effectively is to have other guys in that running back room step up. We saw some good things out of Matthew Fuller. Rasul Faison scored 2 touchdowns, but didn't have a big day rushing-wise. Mm-hmm. And Oscar Attaway didn't have much to do either. So you got to get the running game going a little bit more. But the big thing that I take away, Cole, is that Lenore's finally looked like Lenore's of 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I think that's a really good sign. I guess since I'm being negative Nelly here today on the show, my pushback on that would be, why did it take so long and for that to happen this season?
Yeah, I think it was just about, Shane Beamer brought up a good point the other day, or interesting thing the other day, in that there were a lot of called runs at times, some handoff plays that went to the running backs. But instead of handing it off, Sellers kept it and ran. So I think it was a little bit more of, like, he has the authority on the field. Like, if he sees something in the defense, he can check it down and, call something different at the line if he sees something that makes sense for him to run. And I think that's what we saw a bit on Saturday. So I guess we'll see if that is a week-to-week thing of him pulling it when he feels like the right opportune moment is there. But you hope it's an every week thing, just because he's so much better, and South Carolina is so much better as an offense when the ball is in his hands.
Without a doubt. I agree with you there. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, South Carolina fans in the upstate, if you have a question for Jack, send it in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. It's a good chance I'll ask your question today since I am solo. So if you are a Gamecock fan and want your question asked, you can do so. Jack's the expert, so ask the expert in this very segment. You never know. That's what this might turn into here, Jack. When you look at this bye week, man, where would you feel like, you covering this team, talking to the coaches, talking to the players, what do you think the biggest emphasis is going into the bye week?
I think it's about, I would say, just correcting what's gone wrong over the last few weeks. And that's a pretty cliche answer, but I think it's true that, I'd be a lot more worried right now if South Carolina didn't correct the little things that went so wrong early on this season against Kentucky. I mean, they did a nice job of not missing as many tackles. They only had 6 missed tackles. It's the lowest number all season. They only had 5 penalties. One of them was pre-snap. That's a big, big win right there for Carolina. I mean, I had a lot of questions. I was pretty concerned that South Carolina was not going to be able to kind of shore up all of the loose ends before the bye week. But those are the 2 main ones that they got cleaned up in a big way. And it made a difference, obviously, as the defense had its best game of the year so far, and the offense did some good things. But I think you also got to figure out, okay, like, what are we going to do from a blocking standpoint up front with the offensive line? Because obviously that's been a main criticism for a lot of people. I don't think all of it is entirely warranted, but look, I look at the PFF numbers and those don't lie. I mean, some of the blocking grades were, quite frankly, just not good enough. So got to figure that out. Got to figure out who your best 5 up front are that give you a chance. Because at the end of the day, Cole, if you get some push up front and you win to the line of scrimmage, you're going to be able to run the football more effectively with these guys I mentioned earlier, like Faison, Attaway, Fuller, that just haven't ran it consistently enough. So we'll see what happens there. But I think those are probably the main things I would say. Just continuing to clean up the mistakes that were going wrong over the last few weeks. And then, as I said, continuing to figure out what your best combinations are up front.
Jack, Tolo Yardbird on YouTube on our stream asked, what are the odds of the coaches to stop trying to force him, talking about Lenoris, to be a pocket passer? Is that a fair criticism?
Can I repeat that real quick?
Yeah, he's just asking about the coaches maybe not forcing Lenoris to be a pocket passer, letting him kind of do like you talked about and run more.
So, and again, like I said, I think it mainly what happened on Saturday, I think kind of came down to the fact of, like, Lenoris must have seen something at the line and kind of decided, hey, this is a situation where we're supposed to hand off here, but it might be better to ultimately run the football with a quarterback option play here. I think that's what we saw on Saturday, and I think he's going to continue to develop as a passer. Like, he only had 14, pass attempts on Saturday, which isn't a lot, but he completed 11 of them. Sure. So when the ball needed to be thrown, he made the right throws most of the time. I feel like his decision-making was also just a lot better in this game. He took 2 sacks. One of them I feel like he really couldn't do much on just because he had guys just coming straight at him. But, I mean, there was another one where maybe get rid of the ball or maybe do something a little different. But overall, I feel like Lenoris, the stats may not jump out as much as they did against Missouri, where you have, 300-yard passing game. That's really good. But he was so much better in the run game. And again, he didn't make a lot of mistakes, which I think is a big, big step in the right direction for his development.
Jack, I've got 2 format breakers for you, and then we're going to get back to the Gamecocks and wrap up the interview. But first format breaker, I started the show with this, spent 2 segments on it. Do you – put you in a tight spot here, by the way. Do you consider on-field results to be a direct reflection of a football program, or do you feel like what happens on the field and your program are 2 completely different things?
Well, you are ultimately judged by wins and losses. So I would say, and also that is what you get fired on at the end of the day. If you don't have success, it's because you're losing on the field more times than not. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say how you perform on the field is a direct reflection of the program in general.
Okay, I like that answer, and I am with you. Second format breaker, I see you tweeting a lot about it, and I am drawing a blank, so I've got to ask. With the postseason starting today in MLB, you're a baseball fan. Who's your team again?
Oh, man, you really asking that question?
Is it a bad time?
I'm a diehard New York Yankees fan.
Oh, okay.
I am nervous. I'm nervous, Cole. I'm nervous.
Oh, you're nervous because you're playing your arch rival in the wild card, right?
That's correct, man. I got a lot of buddies who are Red Sox fans as well. So I'm kind of hoping this week goes pretty well, man.
So, I mean, first of all, I think it's incredible for the sport. I know people would rather this matchup come later on. I love it. I love a rivalry in the wild card. I think it's fantastic. I mean, what's your gut tell you, Jack? Are you confident in your team?
Not to get too baseball nerdy, but I do think the Yankees will get the job done. The big question here is, can Aaron Judge have a good postseason run? Can he have, you think of Alex Rodriguez when he was with the Yankees. I mean, he was just not good for so many postseason runs, 04, 05, 06, 07. Yankees did make the playoffs in 08. But 09 was his run where he was just fantastic from start to finish. And obviously that kind of changed the perception of him as a Yankee. That's the one thing Judge is missing, in my opinion, and a good postseason run has to start tonight. He's got to be better because this team goes as far as he goes.
That's going to be fun tonight, man. I can't wait. 6 o'clock, right? I know you're excited.
Yeah, man. It's going to be very exciting, very nerve-wracking, but as long as it's, I'll be happy.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. The bye week, obviously, the focus right now on the Gamecocks, Jack, and then we talked about this brutal stretch that's upcoming for South Carolina. Let me ask you this, man. We do this a lot, and we call this segment Now That We Know What We Know. Now that Jack Veltri has seen what he's seen and he knows what he knows, how do you see this next 5-game stretch going compared to, I don't know, maybe how you predicted it to go preseason?
It's tough to say because, I mean, this 5-game stretch is brutal, Cole. I mean, you have 5 ranked opponents. A bunch of them are going to be ranked in the top 10 when you play them. I mean, I think there's a real possibility South Carolina doesn't win a single game. I mean, it's just the brutal truth, unfortunately. But I do see Carolina surviving it a little bit. I think they will pull off one upset along the way. And honestly, you could say all of them are upsets. But I think South Carolina could go into LSU and win this game. I think if John Mateer isn't playing for Oklahoma, I think South Carolina beats Oklahoma here in a few weeks at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll see what happens with Bama. A night game, you never know, man. You never know. And then the 2 road games against Ole Miss and A&M could be tricky as well. I think South Carolina ultimately, you asked me for a prediction right now, I think they're going to go 2-3 in those 5 games. And I honestly think that's okay. I think as long as you're not going winless, I think that's a pretty decent stretch considering how tough it will ultimately be.
Jack, you're the man. Always appreciate you.
All right, thanks, man.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, Tolos. Great stuff. Make sure you give Jack a follow on Twitter, on X, at Jack T. Veltri. I have a NFL-related question for you, Tolos, in the very next segment. And if you're an NFL fan, oh, man, I need an answer from you in the very next segment. It's going to be a fun question. Don't go anywhere. Turn it on and leave it on. Say thanks to Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central for joining me right here on the Fan Upstate in that very last segment. Jack's awesome, man. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, on X, at Jack T. Veltri. So you might say I'm being a fanboy in this segment, and that's okay, but I do have a serious question for you NFL fans out there. I know a lot of you on the stream right now are NFL fans, and I really want to know. I'm asking this question, number one, because I am a fan, but also, number two, I want unbiased opinions from you Tolos out there. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line is open at 844-326-3663. That's 844-FANFONE. You can also leave a comment in the chat on the stream on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at The Fan Upstate. But I want you NFL fans right now to tell me what quarterback in the NFL, thus far this season, you would take over my quarterback. That's right. That's my quarterback, Dak Prescott. And you might just have wrecked your car. You might have ran in a ditch. You might be hysterically laughing at the radio. But Dak Prescott right now, ladies and gentlemen, through 4 games, is just absolutely spinning it. Through 4 games, Dak Prescott, 121 completions on 166 attempts. He has a completion percentage of 72.9. He leads the NFL with 1,119 yards. He's averaging 6.7 yards per pass. He's averaging 279 yards per game. He has 6 touchdowns on the season. He does have 3 interceptions, a little high for my liking, but a QBR of 74.2 is pretty good, right? Pretty good. What quarterback in the NFL are you going to take over Dak Prescott right now? He leads the league in yardage. He's 4th in the league in QBR. Daniel Jones, by the way, leads the league in QBR. He's 3rd in the league in completion percentage, so not bad at all there. He's number 1 in yards per game. Touchdowns, he's toward the middle of the list. There are quarterbacks who have more touchdowns this season, like Lamar Jackson, like Jared Goff, like Aaron Rodgers. But, man, when it comes to QBR and yards per game and how many yards he's thrown for, Dak Prescott's had a heck of a year. Look at this. 1,119 yards. He's throwing it all over the place. My point being, and I know I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm going to be biased, but my point being here, there aren't many quarterbacks that are better consistently than Dak Prescott when he's healthy. I know you might just be absolutely screaming at the radio telling me I'm an idiot, but I'm telling you, man, you go look at the numbers. Don't take it from me. Go let the numbers do the talking. And most years when Dak Prescott's healthy, Dak Prescott's the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. It's just a fact. When the guy's healthy, he's been at the top of his game. Now, what's interesting is you say, Dewey asked the question, well, why does Dallas suck? It's a good question, Dewey. I am glad you asked that. I really am. I really am glad you asked that question because I want to throw this out there too. The Dallas Cowboys offense and defense are having very different seasons. When it comes to yards per game, Dallas's offense is averaging 404.3 yards per game. That is right now the number 1 offense in the National Football League, led by the best quarterback in the National Football League. However, on defense, they're giving up 420.5 yards per game. Yards per game. So they have the best offense in the National Football League, and they have the worst defense in the National Football League. Tell me another time that's happened. I mean, are you kidding me? How unlucky. I mean, come on, guys. Dak Prescott's been incredible. If you can't see that, you're a Dak hater. Don't be a Dak hater on this Tuesday. Madcraft says Josh Allen, Herbert, Danny Dimes. So I won't push back on all of that, Madcraft. Josh Allen's Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. I really do. But you go look at yards right now, Madcraft, and we can't have this conversation right now. Where's Josh Allen at in total yards this season? He's 7th in total yards, okay? How about your boy Justin Herbert? He's 4th, an incredible season for him. Danny Dimes, he's 3rd in total yards. Danny Dimes had a heck of a season, though. But are you consistently, Madcraft, going to take Daniel Jones consistently year over Dak Prescott? Come on. Come on, you're not going to do that. Z Fink says, I'd take Drake May over Dak. No, you're lying. No, you wouldn't. You would not take Drake May over Dak Prescott. Madcraft says, Dak's playing well, don't get me wrong, but he's not consistent in any metric. Well, that's just not true. That's just not true. Texter says, the list is short. Dak has been incredible. Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, and then Dak at 4. Mahomes, you take Mahomes this year over Dak Prescott? The guy is 9th in total yards. And you take that, I don't know, man. He's 8th in total touchdowns. QBR, Patrick Mahomes is up there. He's top 3. And so is Dak Prescott, by the way. I don't know this season that I'd take Patrick Mahomes over Dak Prescott. Again, we're not talking about teams. We're talking about quarterbacks. Texter says this is Eric Hines. I should have known Eric Hines was going to get in. He says, Jalen Hurts all the way, not even a question. Cowboys suck, and Dak will choke like usual. Fly, Eagles, fly. I love it. I love it. Eric says all of that, and they've got 1 win. Get out of here with all this crap. Fly, Eagles, fly. Look, we're not talking about team. We're talking about, I just asked the question, the better quarterback right now. The better quarterback, right? There aren't many. My point being, there aren't many quarterbacks right now in the National Football League that are playing better than Dakota Reigns Prescott. There's just not. The guy's at the top of his game. And anytime he's been healthy, he's been at the top. He's always been a really good quarterback. Did he have 1 year where he threw like a crazy amount of interceptions? He did. And of course, Madcraft brought up that 1 year. I mean, yeah, he had 1 year where he threw a lot of picks. But when this guy's on, man, if you watch that game Sunday night that ended in a tie, by the way, I mean, this guy is lighting it up. And it's time we stop with the Dak Prescott hate. Okay, this guy's as good as they get in the NFL. When he's healthy, put him up against anybody. I said it. And I mean anybody. When he's healthy, I'll take Dak Prescott against any other quarterback in the NFL, and I mean it. I'll stand on it. I'm tired of the Dak Prescott disrespect. Hour number 3 next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Tolos, hour number 3 of the show is here, and I'm so glad to be with you on this Tolo Tuesday. And, man, it's kind of weird looking outside. Like it's trying to clear up, but it's still dark and gloomy, windy. I think that hurricane that we were supposed to get, like the bad weather is making its way out, but I think it's going to be a nice couple of days over the next few days and remaining this week. So good to be with you, man. I'm Solo. Diesel's still on vacation. And look, you Tolos have the obligation that when one of us are on vacation, you co-host the show. Well, you say, Cole, I'm not there. I can't go. Yeah, you can. You can call the show. You can interact. You can text the show. You can leave a comment on the stream where you can watch Wire to Wire on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You know you can watch the show. How about that? On the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line, texter says, this is D Fig. He says, Dak is almost always great in the regular season. He chokes in the playoffs. Okay, I can't argue with you there. I can't argue. D-Fig, I wish I could argue with you there, but I really can't, man. I really can't. Let's see. Texter says, I was today years old when I learned that Dak Prescott's first name is Dakota. Well, of course it is. Texter says, are we talking strictly through 4 weeks? Then, yeah, Dak has been better than Mahomes. I was thinking of the list of guys I'd want as my franchise quarterback right now. And look, I know there are so many different ways, so many different angles to take it. I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes, I'm not ever going to disrespect that guy. He's one of the best I've ever seen. So not going to do it. Tolo's a loaded show still to get to. We have a lot on the docket. We've still got to get Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider in the very next segment. We still have to talk to our high school player of the week from week 5, Gavin Forrester of Blue Ridge, get to the MLB wildcard scores, what Shane Beamer had to say in his press conference. And man, we have not talked about Sam Pittman yet. So Tolo's in this segment, because I am solo, I'm going to allow you Tolos out there to dictate where we go. How about that? Because like I said, in about 15, 20 minutes from now, we'll have another guest join us on the show. We'll talk Clemson with Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider. But Tolos, I am going to, for this very segment, allow you to dictate where we go in our topic of sports conversation. I do want to talk Sam Pittman. I also want to talk, a little hot seat here because I think it's really fascinating when you have the topic of conversation of these coaches that their seats are really, really hot. How bad things could get for Billy Napier. We didn't get to talk to Sam Pittman yesterday or talk about Sam Pittman, and that happened over the weekend. That's huge news. I've seen a lot of Gamecock fans wanting Sam Pittman in Columbia as the offensive line coach. So a lot to get to. Also, MLB wildcard. If you just tuned in, we'll get to that. 1 game already final, 1 game still underway, 2 more tonight. And in this segment, I'm going to allow you, Tolos, to take me where you want me to go in terms of what you want to talk about. You lead the way, and I will follow. First, we go to the phone lines at 844-326-3663. Where Tom in Somerville wants to lead, and I'll follow. This could be scary. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Cole.
How are you, man?
I turned on the TV at work today, and baseball was on, and I told myself, it feels like opening day.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't watched baseball in so long, it felt like I was watching baseball for the first time again.
Because the Braves are so bad? Is that why?
I have not watched professional baseball, if I'm being honest. I have not sat down to actively watch a baseball game since probably June or July.
No, I'm with you.
And, it's just when the Braves are bad, I have no reason to watch.
Sure.
But obviously playoff baseball, and the first game today was a great baseball game.
Man.
And, I'm excited. I'm going to go home, cook some dinner, and watch baseball till I fall asleep. And I hadn't been able to say that in a long time.
And I'm with you. Let's start there. I have a question for you in a minute, speaking of Somerville. But let's start with the Braves, Tom. I'm with you on how much baseball I've watched. It's been limited as bad as the Braves have been. What do we do? I mean, I'll tell you this. I would rather my team go out in the wild card round and at least be there than not have your team participate. It sucks when your team isn't participating today or tomorrow or one of the buys. It just stinks, man. What do the Braves do? Is Snitker going to stay? I was hoping we'd see some news already of him stepping down and going to the Florida Keys. We've got to get this thing turned around. What's the answer, Tom?
If I knew the answer to the Braves' problems, I'd be one rich man.
Well, we got to figure it out, though. We got to figure it out.
I think Snit should step down, retire, give him his little hoorah send-off. He won a World Series. I really do think it comes down to a philosophy on where they spend the money, which lately the Braves are not spending money. And if they do spend money, it's on the local senior citizens of the AARP club. And that just is not going to win you baseball games. Getting 50-year-old pitchers on a discount ain't going to get you very far. So whether it's, maybe send a few guys off to rebuild the farm system, but they've got to get back to the roots and what led the Braves to win a World Series. And it's a good farm system. It's
and pitching.
And pitching. And, the Braves offense should be fine when healthy. But if you ain't got the pitching, it doesn't matter. What we've seen today in 2 baseball games is good pitching. Yep. And the Braves haven't had that in a long time.
I'm with you. And here's my thing. I don't think as a Braves fan it's time to completely overhaul everything. I said a couple of months ago, I still think there's way too much talent just to overhaul unless you're going to just sell it all and become rich and keep Ronnie and build around. I don't know if that's the right move. I just ultimately think, like I said, to your point, the Braves, when you go look at 2021, they had arms and they had a plethora of arms. They had arms that were healthy. They had arms that were hurt. They had arms that we didn't know about. We've got to get back to that point. And I cannot stand the wild card round starting and my team not being in it.
Yeah, it's sickening. I mean, you can use the injury excuses all you want to, but the fact of the matter is anybody who understands baseball at the slightest at the beginning of the year when Strider got hurt, this team they don't have pitching. And you cannot win in professional baseball with 1 or 2 good arms. You just can't.
Hey, did you see where our old boy is no longer with the Angels, Ron Washington?
Yeah, I knew that. He stepped down several months ago.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's time to bring him back.
That's what I was going to say. I'm hitting at it, Tom. You see what I'm saying here, don't you?
Hey, he's got a special mojo. And whatever that mojo is worked when he was in Atlanta.
But is he too old, though? I mean, the same way I feel kind of about Bruce Bochy with Texas. I mean, that guy's won everywhere he's been, Tom. But is he, who's going to hire Bruce Bochy right now? The guy looks older than dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be a fan of bringing Washington back as the manager. But, that third base coach, we need somebody waving that arm around. We hadn't had that in a little while. So bring him back, bring back his good arm, let him start waving some guys around third base, and maybe we'll start winning.
All right, Tom, real quick before you go, speaking of Somerville, I 2 things this weekend. So you're a big college football fan. I am going to my first ever game at the Ohio State University on Saturday. Pretty excited for that. Okay. And then Sunday, we're coming back, but I have to Sunday night crash in Somerville because I have a work appointment Monday morning at 9 a.m. in Somerville. What in the world is there to do in Somerville on a Sunday night?
Well, if you're in Somerville on a Sunday night, depending on what time you get here, you can go over to the ice house, get you a nice little dinner,
Okay. Is that the best place to watch Sunday Night Football there?
I'll find out what time they close on Sundays. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they should be open late enough to watch the game. If you can't watch the game there, I'll find you another spot.
That'd be great. That'd be great. What? By the way, Sunday Night Football, I don't even know this Sunday. Let me look real quick as I'm getting recommendations from Tom in Somerville. And then I'm going to drive back for the show. Patriots Bills, Tom. That not bad.
You know what we should do.
What's that?
My wife is going to be out of the country, and it's just going to be me. So if you're in Somerville, just come over and we'll cook some food and we'll watch it on the big screen.
Wouldn't that be a great story to tell on the radio Monday?
That's all we need. Hey, I got a big screen. We got a grill.
Oh.
That's all we need.
All right, I'm in. You don't have to convince me.
Come on.
I'm in.
Got my number.
Thanks, Tom.
Go Gamecocks.
Tom in Somerville. That got long-winded. Sorry about that, but appreciate Tom at 844-326-3663. Tom in Somerville inviting me to watch Sunday Night Football with him. His wife might not be happy about that, though. I mean, inviting people over without her permission, dirtying up the house, Tom. All right, Tolos, you lead, I'll follow in this very segment. We do have Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider joining me on the Fan Upstate here in about 10 minutes. We'll talk Clemson with old Will. We hadn't had Will Vandervoort on in quite some time. Texter from the, let's see here, 316 says, who do you like, Yankees or Red Sox tonight? You know, that's a good question, Texter. We had Jack Veltri on back in the 4 o'clock hour. He's a big Yankees fan. And look, I know a lot of you Tolos in the upstate aren't necessarily desperately attracted or dialed in tonight to this postseason baseball, but I am. I'll be honest with you. I love postseason baseball. I really love it when the Braves are involved. And like I just told Tom, it stinks that the Braves aren't involved. But I'm interested tonight in Red Sox Yankees. I'm also interested in Reds Dodgers. Right now, by the way, bottom of the 8th inning, the Cubs lead the Padres 2-1. That's going to be a fun series to watch. The race to 3. Tonight, Texter, to answer your question from the 316, who do you like tonight, Yankees or Red Sox? Who's pitching? Let's look at the pitching matchup. Let's do that. That's important, right? Max Max Fried on the mound, the former Brave. All right, let's just go Yankees then. Let's just automatically, because Max Fried's on the mound tonight, let's go Yankees. I've got to go with the Yankees tonight. I can't pick again. It doesn't even matter who's pitching for Boston. If Max Fried's on the mound, give me the Yankees tonight. Texter says, this comes from Tolo Yardbird. He says, if you don't go to Tom's house, I'm going to stop listening. As you should. As you should. As you should, Tolo Yardbird. That would make for great content on Monday, right? Replay this segment, how it happened. Tom in Somerville invites me. I really do. No lie. I have to be in Somerville for a work appointment on Monday at like 9 a.m. So I'm going to drive down Sunday night. And boy, would that make for good radio. What happened at Tom's house? What do they say? What happens at Tom's house stays at Tom's house. Is that right? Let's see. On the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line, let's see. Corn Chip says, I hope you're right about the weather being nice, Mr. One Semester Weatherman. That's funny. He says, I'm trying to book a round of golf sometime this week, Corn Chip. That's a funny text. Text of the day so far, Corn Chip. Taking shots, unnecessary but funny. I don't know how everybody, and who was it, Dewey, brought this up the other day about me taking 1 semester of meteorology in college. I'm just looking at the weather app. It says it's supposed to be sunny the rest of the week. Sorry. I'm not getting paid to tell you the weather, but if I was, I'd be doing a good job because it doesn't take much talent, right? Let's see. Brandon Burnett on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, time to trade A.J. Brown, and I think Justin Jefferson would be a good fit for us. What are you talking about? So, Brandon, first of all, you're an Eagles fan, right? And you're telling me it's time to trade A.J. Brown. Second of all, I don't think you're getting Justin Jefferson. I mean, yeah, Justin Jefferson would be a good fit for anybody, wouldn't they? Or wouldn't he? I mean, Justin Jefferson's one of the best. You're not trading A.J. Brown. Like, I think it's interesting with that whole scenario in Philadelphia and A.J. Brown being unhappy. Look, A.J. Brown is one heck of a receiver. And at the same time, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0. They are. Two things can be true, right? However, man, you go back and look, A.J. Brown's never gotten the targets that he should have. So, like, I'm not just Mr. Team A.J. Brown all of a sudden. I understand that the team's 4-0 and it's a team game. But you go back, man, A.J. Brown has never been targeted like he should be. And you may say, well, Cole, he doesn't need to be if the Eagles are still 4-0. I think at some point he will need to be. I think at some point they'll get that pass game going. I just think A.J. Brown's too good of a receiver to not be involved more than he is. I really do. He's one of the best talents, just raw talent receiver in the NFL. I really do, man. I like that. Let's see. RJ says, give me Garrett Crochet. How do you say it, RJ? Is it Crochet over Max Fried tonight? Look, maybe so. Maybe you're right. I don't follow the Red Sox a ton. But come on, I can't pick against Max Fried tonight, the former Brave. T-Experience says this is not overreaction Monday. Whoever the Eagles fan is asking for Jettas. Yeah, it was Brandon, and he said it was very unlikely, but it was, I guess, a wish list. We've got time for one phone call, 844-326-3663. Then we got to run off the break. I am solo, so when I come to you, say your name on the air, please, sir or ma'am or whoever it is, 844-FAN-PHONE. Who we got?
What's up, man? This is Adam from Spartanburg.
Adam from Spartanburg. What's up, Adam?
Hey, man. Sounds like you and your boy down in Somerville are gonna have a little date night. Y'all need to get Dewey to come over and
God. Wouldn't that be a freaking all-time experience right there, man? Adam, I might not ever make it back to the upstate if that happened.
Yeah, that'd be crazy, man. Just want to chime in on the Yankees and Red Sox.
Yeah.
Yankees are batting like 200 against that Crochet guy this year. So I don't know if it's going to be a lock for you, boy, Max Fried or not. I hope it is.
That's good. That's a good stat. Are you who's your team, Adam?
Yankees, man.
Yankees guy. I like it. So are you confident or a little worried?
I like Fried, man, but I don't know. They just can't hit the hit old Garrett Crochet, and RJ did correct me. I said it wrong. That's pretty impressive. You said, what, they batting 200 against them? Yeah, they're not doing good at all.
And also, Adam, Red Sox, RJ says Red Sox have won 5 of 7 at Yankee Stadium this year. Does that worry you a little bit?
Yeah, it does, for sure. I'm just hoping Judge and Stanton can hit the long ball. So
we'll see, Adam. Thanks for the call, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too, 844-326-3663. I love it, though. I love having a rivalry like this in the wild card round. I mean, that I know a lot of fans might want to wait and see that later, but come on. I mean, getting people fired up for the wild card, Yankees, Red Sox, are you kidding me? That could be a lot of fun. That could be. So we'll see tonight at 6 o'clock. Will Vandervoort, the Clemson insider, he has not been on this show since ACC kickoff. Way too long. We'll talk to Will next. Well, we're keeping it rolling here in hour number 3 of the show as we turn our attention from the MLB postseason to the Clemson Tigers, and we bring on Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider. Will, it is inexcusable. You have not been on this show since ACC kickoff, and I guess that's my fault. I guess I can't blame you for that, right?
Definitely can't blame me. I would come on if you want me to come on. So
that's my fault.
What's wrong with you guys? Why don't you want to have me on? I mean, my feelings are hurt now.
Well, you know what? I tell you what. Sometimes I have a good excuse. Sometimes I don't. This time I don't have a good excuse. And your feelings should not be hurt. I promise. Not over me in this show. Will Vandervoort, the Clemson Insider, joining me right here on the Fan Upstate on this Tuesday evening to talk a little Clemson football after the bye. And, Will, I spent the first 2 segments of the show today talking about Dabo Swinney's presser this morning. And, man, a lot to unpack, but let's start with what I led the show with. And you are more than welcome to agree, disagree, tell me I'm an idiot, which I may be, but I want to hear your thoughts. I just don't understand. And maybe my brain's not large enough to understand these type of things, Will. But I don't understand how your program can be potentially the best it's ever been in the best spot it's ever been in while your team is 1-3. Those were the words from Dabo Swinney today. What am I missing here?
Well, I think what he's saying is he still believes that the program overall itself is in a good place. Like it's not going downhill from that standpoint of how they do things, the culture. And I think that's what he's trying to reassure, that the culture's fine, that they haven't lost the players and stuff of that nature. I think that's what he's saying by the program's fine. What we're doing inside our house is fine, inside our building's fine. What the problem is or the issues are is football related. He's like, we're just not – and he came out and said the coaches failed. He says they're 1-3 because the coaches failed. Not the players failed. Now, he said the players hold accountability because he's like, hey, it's no longer just scholarships. They're getting paid now too.
Sure.
But, he's like, but still the majority of it goes on the coaches. And he says as the coaching staff, they had to get together and they had to go and look at themselves this past week and say, hey, look, all these guys that are on this team are the same guys we had last year. We went 10-4. We won the ACC. There's no excuse for being 1-3 is what Dabo's saying. So he's saying it's a football issue, and he went in to explain that later, that it's more the football things, tackling and blocking are not getting done. They're just not doing the things as coaches that they should be doing. And he says that's why he's saying they have failed the players in this sense, and they've taken all ownership, including himself. He says he points the thumb back at himself, that's where the problem is. So it's football-related issues, not program-related issues on why they're 1-3, because people such as myself, and I'm sure you guys have questioned, okay, is what Dabo's doing the right thing for Clemson? Yeah. In other words, the transfer portal, NIL, all these other things that are going on with football in the world of college football now. And I think Dabo's trying to say, hey, that's not it. That's not what's going on here. What's going on here is we're just failing as coaches. We're not doing our job coaching these guys up the way we need to. Because he says the talent's there, we're just not getting it done. And he's like, that's on us. He's like, that's not on the players as much as it is on us.
So, Will, if that's the case, who do you believe when he says that? And it's hard to know because we can't read the mind of Dabo Swinney. But if he is pointing the fingers at the coaching staff, who would you feel like he's pointing the blame at the most on the staff?
That's a great question. I think he's pointing at everybody.
Okay.
Because tell me a position group that's played well overall. I mean, I would say maybe C.J. Spiller gets a better grade than people thought. Because remember, running back was the number one issue. But Are you really concerned about running back right now? No. Yeah, you like to see Gideon Davidson get more carries, but that's on the play caller, not C.J. Spiller, right? That's on the play caller to say who's out there on the field and what we're doing. So, I would say probably talking to everybody in that coaching room because, I mean, let's be honest, the quarterback play has sucked. The offensive line play has sucked. Yep. The wide receivers have been inconsistent. The defensive line play has sucked. The linebackers have sucked. The cornerbacks have sucked. The safeties have been okay. So I guess you could say Mika Khan's group's done a pretty good overall job. But nobody else is safe.
Yeah.
So I think he's talking to everybody in that room, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you this, Piggy, tailing off of that before I ask you a big picture question about everybody and all the sucking that's going on right now. The coaching staff, right now it's not good. We know that Clemson's 1-3. We heard what Dabo said today. You've been around this program a long time. You've heard Dabo. You kind of know when he's, really threatening, when he's not. Does this 1-3 start in your mind like cause and effect? Does this 1-3 start cause some postseason changes on the staff that hadn't been good so far?
No, I think when he says we're going to let the season play out more, he means that. I think he's fair. Listen, Dabo's had the experience of twice being in situations where, at first as a young assistant coach at Alabama, when things didn't go as planned that season, that they were supposed to have a real good team. And he was on the staff that got fired. So Dabo's seen it when everybody gets fired. Right. Yep. And so, but they let him go through the rest of the season, and then everybody got fired. There was no mid-season change. Then he's at Clemson and he sees he's there when Tommy Bowden gets fired. He talked about it today. Like, he was the first ever coach that took an interim job that actually won the job, because they went 4-2 down the stretch of that regular season after he took over. And, but he took over a 3-3 team at midseason. And so he's seen that too. And he saw how hard that is on a program when you he had to fire the offensive coordinator, right, at that time. And then he had to make some other moves in the coaching staff. And he saw what stress that puts on the coaching staff and what stress that puts on the team and the program. So I think he's fair, and he'll pay attention to what's going on. And if he feels like if things just aren't getting done in the next few weeks, they're not doing what they're supposed to, things have gotten worse instead of better, then I think he'll revisit the situation. But right now, I think when he says, there's no changes, I'm not looking at that, we're going to go to the next games and see how things go, I think he means that 100%, because he knows how difficult that other side is. Because when you let go of a coach in midseason, a position coach that is, whether it be offensive coordinator, which means you're not just letting go of your offensive coordinator, you're letting go of your quarterback's coach. So now you're moving a guy up coaching that doesn't have as much experience as an on-field coach, right? And so there's all kinds of other stressors that go with it. And I'm not saying that's what he's going to do. He's going to take Gary Riley out. I'm just saying these are the things you think about when you that Dabo, I know, is probably thinking about as a midseason coach. I mean, if you make a midseason change, because he's been there before. He knows what that's like. He knows what it's like inside the locker room. He knows what it's like inside those meetings with the coaches. Because as much as people say, coach has lost his team, you don't want a coach to lose his coaches. And because if he loses his coaches and the coaches get apathy sets in and they're starting to look for other jobs, then that's when you got trouble.
Yeah. Will Vandervoort, the Clemson insider, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. When you look big picture, man, you mentioned that these position groups have just underperformed thus far this season. I mean, last year's roster, so much returning off of last year's roster into 2025. Do you look at it as more of a miss and talent evaluation, or when somebody's looking at this poor coaching job, do you really just say, man, no, the coaching has been that bad?
I don't think it's a miss of talent. I mean, we saw Cade Klubnik last year. The dude was awesome. 43 touchdowns on the season. I mean, he completed 65% of his passes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he ran for nearly 500 yards, threw for 3,600. He put up numbers similar to what Deshaun Watson put up at the first national championship season. Yep. Okay? So that's not talent. You know, we saw the offensive line last year with healthy. They led the ACC in rushing. Clemson did last year. Averaged over 205 yards a game. We're averaging over 6 yards a carry, which led the ACC in yards per carry before the injuries took place, right? Before Phil Maffa got hurt and before a couple of injuries on the offensive line happened. So we know that's talent. They're obviously talented, and the coaches find when they're all working together. The wide receivers, my goodness. Has Bryant Wesco forgot how to catch the ball? No. He's just not doing it at times. Has TJ Moore forgot how to catch the ball? No, he's just not doing it. He's not being consistent. Those wide receivers are super talented. Tyler Brown, Tristan Smith, who they need to get out on the field more, and that's on coaching. I think they need to get him out there more because the coaches are saying, hey, he's doing well in practice, so we got to get him out there more. So, that's coaching, right? So I think, when you look at talent, they're there. Now, you can't tell me TJ Parker, if anybody's going to be the biggest disappointment so far in this season, if I'm naming the number one player that's the disappointment for Clemson right now, it's TJ Parker. I mean, look at his numbers, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, last year he was in the top 5 in sacks and tackles for loss nationally. Now he's not even on the radar.
Wow.
And it's not because he's getting double teamed or anything like this. No, teams are just out scheming him. And they're not doing anything special to get him out of the game. They're just either running right at him and he's not making plays, or they're doing different things they're going to using what he does to their advantage. So he's got to adjust and show that he is one of the top players in the country. Peter Woods, I think, has had a solid season, not a great season. I think he could be better. We haven't seen him make any splash plays. He's made solid plays, and his numbers look good and everything like that, but he hasn't made any splash plays. And then, Sammy Brown, he's overrunning plays. I think he's trying to do too much. He's trying to be Superman. Stop being Superman. Just be you, dude. Trust me, plays they'll come to you. You'll make those plays. Wade Woodad's the same thing. I think he's trying too hard. And so it's just a combination of, I think what's happened, guys, is they're struggling in so many areas. Somebody's trying to step up and be the guy when all they need to do is just stand back and do their job.
I think I'm with you there. I think ultimately when you look at those guys you mentioned, the underperformance has been it's shocking, I would say, as anything else. And yeah, coaching has a lot to do with it. And Dabo brought it up today, Will, that some of it is on the players as well. Do you think, and again, like what Dabo does in the media, he puts on that everything, like, I'm not going to say is all good, but kind of like the old duck adage, right? Where he's paddling like crazy underneath, but on the outside, on the top of the water, he's got everything, he's composed, he's buttoned up. And I feel like Dabo does a good job of that. But on the inside of the building, do you think in this 1-3 start there have been, any tough conversations?
Oh, yeah. Listen, I had the privilege of being with that and having an inside look into the program when I was with Ipte Media and getting access that the normal media doesn't get. And I got to see how Dabo, now I'm sure Dabo's changed things up a little bit since those days back in 2009, but I'm sure some things are still the same. Mm-hmm. And I feel like one thing's still the same is Dabo Swinney, when he needs to address his staff and he needs to address accountability and things of that nature. Yeah, he says one thing on the outside, trust me, where he's going to make sure, hey, we're fixing this, we're doing these things. And he's saying all the things you want to hear him say. But on the inside, you're asking me, is he getting after people? Absolutely he is. I can tell you that right now. that no coach in that coaching staff is feeling comfortable, okay? He is definitely working their butts, if you want to say, and trying to get this thing fixed. Because, hey, at the end of the day, the name that's on this, when everybody looks back at Clemson's 2025 season, they probably will remember some players, maybe some, but you know who they're definitely going to remember? That Dabo Swinney was the head coach of that team.
Yeah.
So you can count your bottom that Dabo Swinney is definitely lighting fires behind the scenes in that football building. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Ultimately, there should be a lot of pressure, not in terms of firing, but in terms of turning this thing around. When you talk about turning this thing around, Will, what does that look like in your mind? I mean, this season, a 1-3 start, the national championship, playoffs obviously already out of the picture. What does turning the season around or saving the season look like in your mind?
Yeah, and I won't say playoff is totally out of the picture, guys, because we don't know. Like right now, you got an undefeated Louisville still standing in the way. You got a nationally ranked Florida State team still standing on the schedule. They got an opportunity to get a couple good wins in there. And then, I mean, we don't know what's going on in Columbia, but what if the Gamecocks get rolling? Because people forget South Carolina was 3-3 last year. And then how'd they finish the season?
Yeah.
Right? And how close were they to making the playoffs?
Sure.
Right? So, like, you know, I won't say the playoffs are out of the question because let's just be hypothetical here. Now, I think getting to the ACC championship is, though not mathematically have they been eliminated, they're pretty close, right? I mean, it's going to be hard coming back from 0-2 to make the championship game in the ACC. However, the playoff is still there, though minuscule, like less than 1% probably at this point in time. But if you win those games I just talked about and you run the table, and say you beat a South Carolina at the end of the year, that let's say South Carolina goes on and just goes on this run right now. And so they beat Oklahoma and Alabama and all this. And all of a sudden, South Carolina's moved up the list, right? And they're up in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Clemson goes to Columbia. And so they've gotten a good win over Louisville and they've gotten a good win over Florida State. And they haven't lost since. They go to Columbia and beat South Carolina. You can't tell. Are you telling me that Clemson wouldn't be in position then at that point? Go 9-3 with a win over a good South Carolina team, a good Louisville team, and a good Florida State team, all possibly ranked teams.
Yeah.
Let's think about that. So it's not totally out of the question. Now, I know fans are out there like, oh, my gosh, Will's lost his mind. And maybe I have. But my job is to look at something. I got to sit back and look at it, you know, from a objective standpoint. So I can't write that they're totally eliminated from the playoffs.
And that's so fair. And I guess the last question I would have to play devil's advocate of that, while you are right, do you believe from what you've seen that this team is good enough to win out?
Right now, no.
Yeah.
So objectively, no.
Right.
They're not. But it doesn't mean I'm right either. And so, you know, I think this week is going to tell us a lot. What is their response to the off week? How did they handle it? How do they come out against a team that they should go take care of business against? Yeah, I'm going to be honest. North Carolina's a bad football team, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bad football team. And if you go up there, that doesn't mean Clemson's going to win.
Right.
Because Clemson shouldn't have lost to Syracuse and get beat the way they did by Syracuse, right? Mm-hmm. So, but if they go up there and take care of business, then that could, not saying that's going to mean, oh, they're going to run the table because they beat a bad football team. No, they take it for what it is. They went up there and did what they're supposed to do. That's a positive. And then you move on to the next week and you get ready for Boston College and try to go up there and get a win, which I think is going to be a very difficult environment. Because at nighttime in BC, when a game like Clemson or Florida State's coming in, they get riled up for those games at Boston College. So that's going to be a tough game for them. But go get a win at North Carolina and then go from there. I think that's their best objective at this point. And I think that's what the game plan is. And Dabo Swinney said it, guys. If you really listen to the press conference, he said, we need this win more than Bill Belichick needs this win.
He's right. He's right. Will, you're the best, man, as always. We appreciate the heck out of you. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Get me on, man. You never get me
I know
on.
it. I'm telling you, it will not be as long as it was this time. My apologies. Will Vandervoort, the Clemson insider. Always appreciate his time. We will finish the hour 3 on the other side. We'll react to what Will Vandervoort said and get your thoughts. We wrap up hour number 3 on the other side. Oh, by the way, shout out to Keith Moore. Speaking of Clemson, North Carolina, Keith Moore, who's watching on Facebook, said he's going to the game this weekend, and he also threw a Go Heels in there as well. Appreciate you watching the show, Keith, and thanks to Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider.
live on the free Odyssey app. Now, the Infinity Sports Network. Text or call. One number does it all. 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Tolos, I am disappointed in you. I mean, I am so disappointed in you right now, it's not even funny. What am I talking about? Why am I disappointed in you? Well, I'll tell you. I go fill up my water bottle during the commercial break and hear a bunch of helicopters, and I ask one of the guys who's in the newsroom across the hall for 98.9, what's up with the helicopters? He said, they've been looking for a guy for the past 4 or 5 hours. Well, Tolos, I'm sitting here in Greenville, sitting duck in a radio station by myself, and not one of you Tolos are going to text in and say, hey, Cole, by the way, if you see a random squirrely-looking guy out the window, don't invite him in for some bread and wine. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? Are we not looking out for my safety on this Tolo Tuesday? I don't know. Have you you Tolos out there in Greenville, have you seen helicopters as well? Or am I being lied to? Because both are a possibility. They could be looking for a guy. I could be being lied to by the news guy down the hall. One of the two could be true. They could both be false. I don't know. Just telling you what I was told. I don't. Keith on Facebook. Look at Keith. Keith's hooking me up. He's the man. Keith said he's on the run from Spartanburg County. He ran from the other night. He ran from them the other night, and they got him, and he got away, and now they're hunting him again. My goodness. Are you kidding me? How do they let somebody get away? That's crazy. So maybe what the guy down the hall said was true, Keith. Is that what you're saying? Dewey says they're looking for me. Keith also said on the Facebook stream, I think that college football has changed since the transfer portal and the money came in. If you're tough on them and you don't like it, they'll transfer, which has changed the whole game for some teams. That's just my opinion. That's interesting. I think you look at the landscape of college football now, especially this season, and I think my biggest takeaway has been thus far, it doesn't really make sense. It really doesn't if you think about it. Like, what am I talking about? You would think that the guys like the Clemsons of the world who have this roster put together, you would think those teams would have a huge advantage on these new transfer portal guys, but that just hadn't been the case. That hadn't been the case. So, Keith, I'm with you. It's been strange. It really has. Let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. Who we got?
Hi, this is Sam and Taylor's. How are you?
Sam and Taylor's. I'm wonderful. How are you?
Hey, I'm amazing. I really enjoy y'all's show, and I've been listening for about a year or so, I guess. So I give you compliments on that for sure.
Appreciate it, Sam. Appreciate you listening.
Absolutely. I have a couple thoughts, though. I was listening to the rundown on your insider for Clemson, and I don't know a lot about who's who on the various teams, but I do watch Clemson and Carolina. But my thought is this. So there's a lot of onus being put on the coaches, and in particular, what is being heard from Dabo as far as, this is a coaching problem, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a prior military vet, and I'm used to young people doing great things and having initiative and following instructions on a regular. So, hate to say it, but I'm kind of having a hard time with agreeing with this being exclusively a coach's topic. So, I feel like they're on the field. This is their opportunity to shine, and a lot of them are getting paid probably a lot more than what I am, and maybe what you are.
Yeah,
so,
definitely what I am.
Yeah, just
Sam,
food for thought. Now hang up and let you do your deal.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Sam, and appreciate you listening. I think you're on to something. I really do. And look, am I saying that coaches don't have responsibility or don't have impact? No, not at all. I think you're on to something in the sense of like what Will Vandervoort just said. Not saying Will's totally off on this, but are we going to really just say that these guys are being out-schemed so bad that they can't take over a game? Because, like, let's be honest, you look at the greats. You go back, any sport, choose your athlete. It doesn't matter. All-time greats are going to take over. Now, I know, we all know there aren't all-time greats on this Clemson roster, but there are some pretty good ones. Some pretty good players, right? Supposedly, allegedly. So, Sam and Taylor's, I think you're on to something in the sense of maybe coaching has not been at its best. But at the same time, when a really good player is matched up one-on-one in the game of football, because remember, at the end of the day, most of the time it all comes down to one-on-one matchups, right? When a really good player is one-on-one with the opposition, regardless of coaching, regardless of scheme, the better player should come out on top, and that just hasn't happened for Clemson in 2025. Sam, I think that's a great point. Great call. Appreciate you listening and calling the show. Hour number 4, that's next right here on the Fan Upstate. It's the final hour of the show on this Tolo Tuesday, but just because it's the final hour doesn't mean we're going to slow down. We're not going to do it. We're not going to take it. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Tolo Tuesday. Diesel's still on a little staycation. He'll be back next week, but it's you and I. Until then, appreciate you being a part of the show. Want to say thanks to Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central, as well as Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider for joining me on the Fan Upstate today. Really good stuff. If you missed it, you can go back on the fanupstate.com on the podcasting feature, also on the free Odyssey app. So many ways to get the information in case you missed it. A little MLB wild card for you tonight. 2 games have gone final. The Detroit Tigers defeated the Cleveland Guardians 2-1, and the Chicago Cubs, the Cubbies, defeated the San Diego Padres 3-1. So the winners today so far, Tigers and Cubs. Tonight, you have Red Sox, Yankees. Actually, should be underway right now. 6 o'clock first pitch on ESPN, and Reds Dodgers. I've got to get that Boston New York game on the old television here in the Fan Upstate Ingalls Market Studios. I am solo, so trying to see, is it on ESPN? Like somebody's going to answer me, right? It'd be weird if somebody did, but I hope not. Yeah, I believe it is on ESPN. So I'll tell you this, man. I'm looking forward. I really am looking forward to this game. Yankees, Red Sox. I know we had somebody call in earlier from Spartanburg to talk about the Yankees tonight. And them going against Boston, not having the best team ERA thus far. Look, I think to his point, I think it could be a good game tonight. I don't know. Crochet, I don't know a ton about that guy for Boston, but I do know to the caller's point from earlier in the show, evidently the Yankees have not been the best when it comes to team ERA against Crochet. Also, RJ sent in this on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. The Red Sox have won 5 of 7 at Yankee Stadium this year. So they've been pretty good on the road. 2 more games tonight. Again, Red Sox, Yankees right now. Reds, Dodgers tonight at 9 o'clock. The Dodgers are favored in that one. The Yankees favored in this game coming up very, very shortly in the AL wild card. Tolo's phone lines are still open. Hub City Spartanburgers text line open as well at 844-326-3663. We hadn't even gotten into what happened last night in Monday Night Football. Wasn't the best games, but a horrible injury for Tyreek Hill. We'll get to that. Tolo J. Butane on the stream says, can't stand the Yanks or the Sox or Dodgers. MLB is the only sport you can buy your title. NCAA headed that way. I don't know, Tolo J. Butane. You could argue that Ohio State bought their title last year, right? You could argue that. Didn't they have the most expensive roster in college football a season ago? You could argue that the Golden State Warriors have bought titles before with Kevin Durant. So I don't know if I'm with you on that. Keith on the stream says if the Yankees come out and play tonight, play their game, they can win. And I think there's a lot to be said about what Judge does tonight as well. With it being the postseason, I'm excited. I really am. I think that I don't know who to pick. I think I like the Yankees tonight, believe it or not, with Max Fried. Dewey says, don't put your money on Fried. He sucked last postseason with the Braves. Yeah, but he's not with the Braves. He's not with the Braves. A fresh start for old Max Fried. It's just hard for me to bet against Max Fried, isn't it? I mean, come on. RJ sent me the line on Garrett Crochet for Boston. 32 games, 18-5. Good grief. Wow. 2.59 ERA. 205.1 innings pitched. He has a whip of 103 and 255 strikeouts. So, man, my apologies, Tolos, for not knowing that this guy, Garrett Crochet, was as good as he's been this season. I guess this is what happens when the Braves suck. And kind of like Tom in Somerville said, I've tuned out, for a large majority of the season, and now I'm tuned back in. I'm ready tonight. But the game, Tolos, the game is not on my TV right now. Did y'all lie to me? Did y'all lie to me about it being on ESPN? I am by myself, so it says MLB playoff. I've got it on ESPN, but they're showing highlights of Joe Burrow. What's going on? What's going on, Tolo? Somebody come fix it for me. Where's engineering when you need them? Let's see here on the stream. Philip Moore says, who's pitching for the Yanks? If it's Fried, he will shove. It is Maxie Max. I don't know, man. I know Max had a big part of the Braves' success and may not be the same pitcher, but I've still got a little bit of faith in old Max Fried tonight. I do, man. I do. Keith says Aaron Judge needs to do better in the postseason. And I was going to bring that up, Keith. I don't have Aaron Judge's postseason numbers in front of me, but I kind of felt like that. That's why I said that a minute ago about what Judge does. Maybe I'm totally off on this. It hasn't felt like Aaron Judge has been the best in the postseason. Am I off on that? Let's see. Aaron Judge in the postseason. Here we go. Thanks to StatMuse. Wow. Man, let's see. Aaron Judge has a batting average. Are you going to believe this, Tolos? One of the best players in baseball. In his postseason, Aaron Judge has a batting average of 205. Ooh. Not great. Not great. I didn't realize that. Did you realize it was that low, Tolos? Aaron Judge has a postseason batting average of 205, 45 hits, 16 home runs, 34 RBIs, 37 runs scored in 58 games in the postseason in his career. Last year in the postseason, he played 14 games. He had 49 at-bats. So I guess this is where Philip was bringing that up on Facebook. Not good last year. 49 at-bats and 9 hits. So just not up to par in terms of what he normally does. He did have 8 runs, but boy, now I'm looking at these stats. He hadn't been the greatest in the postseason. Sure enough, only 9 RBIs. 9 RBIs isn't bad, though. But only 3 the year before that, I believe, 2022. No RBIs in 21. He was 4 of 30 in 2020. 9 of 34 in 2019. 8 of 19, so he wasn't bad in 18. 9 of 48 back in 2017. So, again, to your point there, Keith, he has not been stellar in his postseason career. And I think that's, that's baseball though, right? That's baseball. Sometimes your best players disappear at times. However, when you are Aaron Judge, you cannot disappear in the postseason. This team's going to go as Aaron Judge goes, right? They're going to go as he goes. So I'm with you on that. That'll be fascinating to watch. The Tolos are saying, let's see, Keith and Tolo J. Butane said it just started. So hopefully they'll flip it over on mine. They're still showing WNBA on my TV because that's what everybody cares about right now, right? On the 30th day of September, everybody cares about the WNBA. I don't even know what team they're talking. They got the logo on the TV. I just don't even know what team it is. So hopefully they'll flip it over. Maybe I have to change the channel. Boston, New York coming up shortly, and then Reds, Dodgers tonight. Did you watch Tolos, the 2 Monday night football games last night? Look, I don't know that you would use the word entertaining, but you did. you did have 2 football games last night. I love football, so I'm never going to complain about having bad football. Bad football to me is better than no football, right? Because when football season's over, I would rather watch bad football than no football. But last night was not great. You had a pair of 0-3 teams going at it. The Miami Dolphins got the win 27-21 over the New York Jets. And then also the second game of the night, the Broncos defeated the Bengals 28-3. 2 games that weren't all that great, just to be quite honest with you. I don't know what the answer is in Miami. I have always thought that Mike McDaniel knew what he was doing as a head coach. I really have. But I think, even though they got the win last night, I think that the days are numbered in Miami for Mike McDaniel. I really believe that. He just hasn't been what we thought he could be, right? I believe we all made a mistake of just being wowed by his smarts and the way he talked, the way he carried himself, but it just hadn't been the answer. So I don't know. I think his days are still pretty numbered, even though the Dolphins did get the first one of the season last night. Tolos, want to remind you that the Upset Picks Challenge begins tomorrow at 4 p.m. We did – this never fails. We did have a couple of Tolos earlier in the show today who sent their upset pick in. And Tolos, I don't know how many times we have to tell you, the Upset Picks Challenge does not open until Wednesday at 4 p.m. It's not open. So for those handful of Tolos out there that sent your upset picks in, I apologize, but those are not valid. I'm sorry. They're not. It doesn't open until 4 o'clock tomorrow. That's when the Upset Picks Challenge will be open. Man, quick work by the Yanks there in that top of the first inning, huh? I finally got it on my TV, had to switch it over, but very quick work. And we're heading to the bottom of the first where New York will be up to the plate. RJ on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, Lucas Gallardo unlikely to pitch again this season for the Red Sox. They've got good news on his elbow, but won't be able to return in October. Huge blow to the Red Sox. Yeah, especially if they were to advance after this week, right? So then we shall see. We shall see. Also want to remind you, Tolos, that we still have our high school, Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week coming up a little bit later on the show. Gavin Forrester of Blue Ridge. He'll join us in the very last segment. But in case you missed it, we had a fantastic conversation earlier in the 4 o'clock hour with Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. We always hit you with it in case you missed it. Most times we do. Most of the time. In case you missed it, with our good friend Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central next.
Leave your namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
It is time to talk a little Gamecock football with Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. He joins us every single Tuesday at this very time. Jack, how the heck are you, man?
Really good, Cole. Thanks for calling, man. And happy, what's today? Monday? I'm getting my days mixed up.
Happy Tolo Tuesday. Do you know what a Tolo is, Jack? Have I ever told you what a Tolo is?
No, what is a Tolo, man?
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. You've probably heard these when I say Tolo a lot, and you're like, what is it? What are these guys talking about? So I get asked all the time out in public, what is a Tolo? So Tolo stands for turn on, leave on. We ask our listeners every day to turn it on, leave it on. Okay, so if you turn it on and leave it on, you're a Tolo. Make sense?
It does make sense.
Catchy, right? Catchy?
Yeah,
if you hate it, Jack.
I like a little acronym.
I like the acronyms. We all love acronyms. Hey, before we get into football, media advisory for what, Thursday? A little meet the Gamecocks on the hardwood. It's basketball season already here. Is it that time already, man?
Man, it's getting close. I mean, look, man, November 4th is the opening tip-off of the season for Carolina. October 26th, I believe it is. Carolina's playing a scrimmage or exhibition, I should say, against North Carolina State. So, yeah, man, season's around the corner, and October starts tomorrow. So we're officially on countdown to basketball season pretty soon.
Is there more optimism, Jack? I mean, like, obviously the optimism going into last year was high because of what Lamont Paris did in his first season, but last season was disappointing. Where do you think Gamecock fans are when it comes to basketball, where their expectations are?
I would say it's a little bit lower. I mean, I think there's just not a ton of optimism just because, number one, football's going on right now.
Yeah.
You know, women's basketball is. So I think basketball is not on the back burner, but I think people are excited. It's just, I think there's a lot of cautious optimism that I don't think it can get much worse than last year, quite frankly, but you never know. I mean, crazier things can happen.
Jack, I don't know about that. You say everybody's focused on football. This 5-game stretch goes wrong. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, man, people are not going to. People are going to be turning towards fall baseball then. Hopefully, if basketball doesn't go well either.
That's right. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, joining me right here on the Fan Upstate, as he does every Tuesday at this time. South Carolina on a bye week. We'll get into that, but. Jack, tell me where I'm wrong on this. Yesterday, we talked a lot about South Carolina, their win over Kentucky. And, you know, I think Gamecock fans in the SEC in college football, you always should celebrate a win. But, man, again, tell me I'm wrong. I didn't see a ton offensively Saturday that excites me if I'm a Gamecock fan.
I'm split on it.
Okay.
I think we saw more balance from this offense. We saw what I think everyone's been wanting to see, man, is Lenora Sellers running the football. We saw that a lot more on Saturday. We saw those plays that he would make last year, and that's a really positive sign. Probably one of the bigger takeaways I have from that game is letting Lenore's cut loose a little bit, like everyone's been wanting him to do.
Yep.
And that's what we saw on Saturday. Now, I think the passing game continues to it was Sellers was fine in the passing game. He didn't need to do too much. So I think you try to build him up to be that passer that we saw against Missouri, but also let him be that runner. And I think that's going to be the best version of this offense. But the way in which you kind of need to do that to be able to run the football effectively is to have other guys in that running back room step up. We saw some good things out of Matthew Fuller. Rasul Faison scored 2 touchdowns, but didn't have a big day rushing-wise. Mm-hmm. And Oscar Attaway didn't have much to do either. So you got to get the running game going a little bit more. But the big thing that I take away, Cole, is that Lenore's finally looked like Lenore's of 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I think that's a really good sign. I guess since I'm being negative Nelly here today on the show, my pushback on that would be, why did it take so long and for that to happen this season?
Yeah, I think it was just about, you know, Shane Beamer brought up a good point the other day, or interesting thing the other day, in that there were a lot of called runs at times, some handoff plays that went to the running backs. But instead of handing it off, Sellers kept it and ran. So I think it was a little bit more of, like, he has the authority on the field. Like, if he sees something in the defense, he can check it down and, call something different at the line if he sees something that makes sense for him to run. And I think that's what we saw a bit on Saturday. So I guess we'll see if that is a week-to-week thing of him pulling it when he feels like the right opportune moment is there. But you hope it's an every week thing, just because he's so much better, and South Carolina is so much better as an offense when the ball is in his hands.
Without a doubt. I agree with you there. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, South Carolina fans in the upstate. If you have a question for Jack, send it in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. It's a good chance I'll ask your question today since I am solo. So if you are a Gamecock fan and want your question asked, you can do so. Jack's the expert, so ask the expert in this very segment. You never know. That's what this might turn into here, Jack. When you look at this bye week, man, where would you feel like you covering this team, talking to the coaches, talking to the players, what do you think the biggest emphasis is going into the bye week?
I think it's about, I would say, just correcting what's gone wrong over the last few weeks. And that's a pretty cliche answer, but I think it's true that, I'd be a lot more worried right now if South Carolina didn't correct the little things that went so wrong early on this season against Kentucky. I mean, they did a nice job of not missing as many tackles. They only had 6 missed tackles. It's the lowest number all season. They only had 5 penalties. One of them was pre-snap. That's a big, big win right there for Carolina. I mean, I had a lot of questions. I was pretty concerned that South Carolina was not going to be able to kind of shore up all of the loose ends before the bye week. But those are the 2 main ones that they got cleaned up in a big way. And it made a difference, obviously, as the defense had its best game of the year so far, and the offense did some good things. But I think you also got to figure out, okay, like, what are we going to do from a blocking standpoint up front with the offensive line? Because obviously that's been a main criticism for a lot of people. I don't think all of it is entirely warranted, but look, I look at the PFF numbers and those don't lie. I mean, some of the blocking grades were, quite frankly, just not good enough. So got to figure that out. Got to figure out who your best 5 up front are that give you a chance. Because at the end of the day, Cole, if you get some push up front and you win to the line of scrimmage, you're going to be able to run the football more effectively with these guys I mentioned earlier, like Faison, Attaway, Fuller, that just haven't ran it consistently enough. So we'll see what happens there. But I think those are probably the main things I would say. Just continuing to clean up the mistakes that were going wrong over the last few weeks. And then, as I said, continuing to figure out what your best combinations are up front.
Jack, Tolo Yardbird on YouTube on our stream asked, what are the odds of the coaches to stop trying to force him, talking about Lenoris, to be a pocket passer? Is that a fair criticism?
Can I repeat that real quick?
Yeah, he's just asking about the coaches maybe not forcing Lenoris to be a pocket passer, letting him kind of do like you talked about and run more.
So, and again, like I said, I think it mainly what happened on Saturday, I think kind of came down to the fact of, like, Lenoris must have seen something at the line and kind of decided, hey, this is a situation where we're supposed to hand off here, but it might be better to ultimately run the football with a quarterback option play here. I think that's what we saw on Saturday, and I think he's going to continue to develop as a passer. Like, he only had 14, pass attempts on Saturday, which isn't a lot, but he completed 11 of them. So when the ball needed to be thrown, he made the right throws most of the time. I feel like his decision-making was also just a lot better in this game. He took 2 sacks. One of them I feel like he really couldn't do much on just because he had guys just coming straight at him. But, I mean, there was another one where maybe get rid of the ball or maybe do something a little different. But overall, I feel like Lenoris, the stats may not jump out as much as they did against Missouri, where you have, 300-yard passing game. That's really good. But he was so much better in the run game. And again, he didn't make a lot of mistakes, which I think is a big, big step in the right direction for his development.
Jack, I've got 2 format breakers for you, and then we're going to get back to the Gamecocks and wrap up the interview. But first format breaker, I started the show with this, spent 2 segments on it. Do you – put you in a tight spot here, by the way. Do you consider on-field results to be a direct reflection of a football program, or do you feel like what happens on the field and your program are two completely different things?
Well, you are ultimately judged by wins and losses. So I would say, and also that is what you get fired on at the end of the day. If you don't have success, it's because you're losing on the field more times than not. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say how you perform on the field is a direct reflection of the program in general.
Okay, I like that answer, and I am with you. Second format breaker, I see you tweeting a lot about it, and I am drawing a blank, so I've got to ask, with the postseason starting today in MLB, you're a baseball fan. Who's your team again?
Oh, man, you really asking that question?
Is it a bad time?
I'm a diehard New York Yankees fan.
Oh, okay.
I am nervous. I'm nervous, Cole. I'm nervous.
Oh, you're nervous because you're playing your arch rival in the wild card, right?
That's correct, man. I got a lot of buddies who are Red Sox fans as well. So I'm kind of hoping this week goes pretty well, man.
So, I mean, first of all, I think it's incredible for the sport. I know people would rather this matchup come later on. I love it. I love a rivalry in the wild card. I think it's fantastic. I mean, what's your gut tell you, Jack? Are you confident in your team?
Not to get too baseball nerdy, but I do think the Yankees will get the job done. The big question here is, can Aaron Judge have a good postseason run? Can he have, you think of Alex Rodriguez when he was with the Yankees. I mean, he was just not good for so many postseason runs. Yeah. 04, 05, 06, 07. Yankees did make the playoffs in 08. But 09 was his run where he was just fantastic from start to finish. And obviously, that kind of changed the perception of him as a Yankee. That's the one thing Judge is missing, in my opinion, and a good postseason run has to start tonight. He's got to be better because this team goes as far as he goes.
That's going to be fun tonight, man. I can't wait. 6 o'clock, right? I know you're excited.
Yeah, man. It's going to be very exciting, very nerve-wracking, but as long as I'll be happy.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. The bye week, obviously, the focus right now on the Gamecocks, Jack, and then we talked about this brutal stretch that's upcoming for South Carolina. Let me ask you this, man. We do this a lot, and we call this segment Now That We Know What We Know. Now that Jack Veltri has seen what he's seen and he knows what he knows, how do you see this next 5-game stretch going compared to, I don't know, maybe how you predicted it to go preseason?
It's tough to say because, I mean, this 5-game stretch is brutal, Cole. I mean, you have 5 ranked opponents. A bunch of them are going to be ranked in the top 10 when you play them. I mean, I think there's a real possibility South Carolina doesn't win a single game. I mean, it's just the brutal truth, unfortunately. But I do see Carolina surviving it a little bit. I think they will pull off one upset along the way. And honestly, you could say all of them are upsets. But I think South Carolina could go into LSU and win this game. I think if John Mateer isn't playing for Oklahoma, I think South Carolina beats Oklahoma here in a few weeks at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll see what happens with Bama. A night game, you never know, man. You never know. And then the 2 road games against Ole Miss and A&M could be tricky as well. I think South Carolina ultimately, you ask me for a prediction right now, I think they're going to go 2-3 in those 5 games. And I honestly think that's okay. I think as long as you're not going winless, I think that's a pretty decent stretch considering how tough it will ultimately be.
Jack, you're the man. Always appreciate you.
All right, thanks, man.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, Tolos. Great stuff. Make sure you give Jack a follow on Twitter, on X, at Jack T. Veltri. I have a NFL-related question. Well, Jack Veltri was number one freaking fantastic because Jack's the best. I mean, he really is. Number 2, I want to continue the conversation just for a second on the Gamecocks, if you don't mind, before we run off the break in a few minutes and are then joined by our Fan Upstate Player of the Week. You know, I asked Jack oh, by the way, let me update you. Before I get into the Gamecocks, we have had a score in the Yankees-Red Sox wild card game. If you are driving home, the Yankees lead the Red Sox 1-0 heading into the top of the third inning. So a little scoring update for you there. But quick thoughts on the Gamecocks. Before we run off the break and then close the show, we'll talk more tomorrow and get your thoughts on it as well, Tolos. But, I've heard this several times in the past couple of days regarding South Carolina. What am I talking about? I've heard this ideology, this philosophy that maybe, just maybe, South Carolina continues the blueprint of a season ago or from a season ago. And they were 3-3 in 2024, and look how they finished the year, right? I've heard a few people say that now. Could it happen? Sure. I think South Carolina could end the season on a high. I'm not saying they can. However, based on what I've seen, I think South Carolina has some serious problems up front on the offensive line. Also, based on what I've seen, Dow Loggins is gone. He was the OC in 2024. Now you've got Mike Shula. Based on what I've seen, I don't feel led to believe that this team that's already 1-2 in conference play, I don't feel led to believe that this team all of a sudden is just going to flip the switch. Here's the reality of it. If this team were playing in another conference, let's say the ACC, then it might be feasible, right? However, they're not playing in the ACC. Here's the stretch. So am I saying that South Carolina can't turn it around? No, I'm not. But here's what I'm looking at. You've seen what you've seen with Mike Shula, the offensive line, South Carolina's offense not looking great at times. And now that you know what you know, you're 3-2 on the year. You're 1-2 in conference play. Next Saturday, after this week's bye, next Saturday, you are in Death Valley in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Do any of you Gamecock fans out there in your heart of hearts believe that South Carolina is going to go on the road and upset LSU? No, we don't believe that. You don't believe that. I don't believe that. None of us believe that. So you're probably looking at 3-3. And then you do have a very interesting game the next week at home against Oklahoma. The reason this game now becomes really interesting, really intriguing is because John Mateer's hurt. John Mateer's still dealing with his hand injury. So do we really know that John Mateer is going to be available? No, we don't. So if I told you John Mateer is not going to be able to play, I think all of a sudden you look at this game against Oklahoma and you think, man, this is a winnable game. And obviously the point spread would be largely dictated by whether or not John Mateer plays or not on the 18th of October. That's a home game, by the way, for South Carolina. So they're in Baton Rouge, then they're home hosting Oklahoma. Maybe without John Mateer, we just don't know. I would probably lean right now that the Oklahoma won't have John Mateer. We'll see. And then you have Alabama at home for homecoming. That's going to be really, really tough. Alabama seems to be hitting their stride. Then you go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Then you go to Bryan College Station, right, to play A&M. I'm not saying, my point being in all of this, I'm not saying that South Carolina can't do what they did last year and finish strong. I just don't know that it's realistic to look at the remaining schedule that South Carolina has, as well as the fact that South Carolina's offense just hasn't been great. With the combination of the two, the defense has been fine. I'm not worried about South Carolina's defense. I've been really impressed with South Carolina's defense. I really have. I think Clayton White's once again done an exceptional job. But with the offense not looking the best at times, plus this brutal stretch, and then, by the way, you have Coastal and Clemson to finish the season, I just don't know how you can confidently feel like the Gamecocks replicate what they did in 2024. Am I saying it can't happen? No. I'm just saying I'd be shocked if they were to end the season on as high of a note as they did a season ago. That's all I'm saying. Tolo's the final segment of the show coming your way. It is time to talk to the Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week. He wears number 1. He plays quarterback for Blue Ridge High School. His name is Gavin Forrester. We chat a little high school football with Gavin next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
think you know better than career coaches making 100 times your salary? You're listening to the right show.
This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Well, it's time to talk to our Fan Upstate Player of the Week. We do it every single week right here on Wire to Wire, and this week we are joined by Gavin Forrester of Blue Ridge High School, #1 quarterback. Gavin on Friday night was 10 of 15, 190 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 15 rushes for 124 yards, and 3 more rushing touchdowns, 6 total touchdowns. Gavin, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Is that the biggest night thus far of your career? 6 total touchdowns?
Yes, sir, it is.
I'd say so, man. I'd say it's so. A big win for you guys, 63-28 over Landrum. Talk about the performance, the preparation leading up to it. Going into a game like that, Gavin, did you feel like Friday night you were capable of doing something like that?
When you get out there, I'm just kind of doing your thing. The week of preparation was definitely one of our best weeks of preparation. 2 years ago, we went over there, and we got beat pretty good. So we were all that whole week ready to get back at them. So it was definitely a good week of practice. And
so that was something you remembered from a couple of years ago, wanting that revenge?
Yes, sir, it was.
I like it. Talking to Gavin Forrester, the Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 5, the 63-28 win for Blue Ridge over Landrum. Talk about playing for Coach Boggs, Gavin. We've had him on the show multiple times, as well as on Saturday morning on the Saturday Scramble. What does Coach Boggs allow you to do with the offense in terms of your freedom as a quarterback?
He's definitely given me a lot more responsibility and freedom over the years. My sophomore year, I was very restricted. Junior year, got a little leeway, and my senior year, I definitely feel like I've been opened up a lot more. So when I'm on the field, it's not like anything's holding me back. I just get out there, just run around, have fun.
I love it. You know what? That's interesting. You said the 3 years he's kind of allowed you to have a little bit more freedom each year. What do you feel like it is as a senior now that you grasp better than you did the previous 2?
The speed of the game really just slowed down a lot. My sophomore year, my first varsity year I felt like everything was just moving insanely fast, and I was just always one step behind everybody.
Yeah.
And then my junior year, it felt like I was where I needed to be. I just couldn't quite make the play. And then definitely this year, I feel like I'm one step ahead of everybody. Then
I love that. You know, it's interesting, Gavin. We hear players talk about that all the time, man, in terms of speed of the game. And you know, now as a senior, you're saying that the game has slowed down a good bit for you. Is that something that you can only, like when you talk about getting the game to slow down or allowing the game to slow down, is that something that you can only just do by more reps?
I would say it's more like game reps than it would be like at practice or anything like that.
Sure.
So I would say definitely more like experience in a game. I mean, I've played since I was 5 years old, so the game has definitely. I feel like I have more of an understanding than people that have started a lot later.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just. I'd say it's definitely an experience thing and just being actually out there on the field.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because we hear coaches talk about it in players as well, Gavin, in terms of practice obviously being valuable, right? But not being able to simulate what you see in a game. Do you feel that way?
Yes, sir. It definitely is that way.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Congratulations to you. A big win. Talk about some of the other guys. 63 points put up by you guys at Blue Ridge on Friday in that big win over Landrum. Who are some of the teammates that also had big nights?
Mitchell Bobbitt had a great night. Ja'Cory had a great night. And I would say Tyson Hicks had a phenomenal night. His numbers and everything like that doesn't really show it, but his blocking capabilities are just remarkable. He's just like an O lineman out there at receiver. He's really, really, really good blocking receiver.
You mentioned the offensive line there, Gavin. Those guys don't get near enough credit in any at any level. Is that something that you feel like you talked about as a sophomore, junior, now a senior? Do you feel like game by game you and your offensive line have continued to gel? And if so, what does that process look like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely over the years, I feel like I have a more personal relationship with all of them. We don't have very much depth at the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So every O lineman knows every position. So I definitely feel like that helps them in learning everything. So, yeah, most definitely. Because over the years, like my sophomore and junior year, I feel like all those older guys were just kind of like, wouldn't necessarily frown down upon me, but like wouldn't have as much trust in me as they would now, I would say.
Sure.
So I definitely feel like my O linemen trust me enough, and I trust them enough to get what we need done.
I love it. Joined by Gavin Forrester, the Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 5. Gavin, when you're not on the field on Friday night, what are your hobbies? What can you find Gavin doing?
I'm usually out with the family, just doing stuff. Depends on what we're doing. And then every Saturday, starting last Saturday, my sister has cheer competitions. So that's where my Saturdays mainly get held up. And then when we get home, it's watching college football.
I like it. Who's your college team?
Clemson.
Okay. You made a face there before you said that. Why'd you do that?
It's a rough year right now. It's a rough year.
It is. It has been a rough year. What do you think in your mind, being a fan? I mean, what's the problem? If somebody walks up and sees you wearing a Clemson shirt and said, "What's going on?" What does Gavin Forrester say?
I'd say we need to put more points on the board.
That's a great answer.
So
that's a good one.
I think our defense is fine. I think they're holding their own, but our defense our offense really just needs to put points on the board. That's what you need to win football games is points.
You do indeed. Gavin, you're the man. Appreciate you. Congratulations on your performance this past Friday, and best of luck to you guys at Seneca this Friday. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. Congratulations, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. Gavin Forrester, you heard him right here on the Fan Upstate. He was our player of the week for Week 5. How about that? I mean, are we talking only 6 touchdowns for Gavin Forrester? Not a bad night at all, right? And the big 63-28 win over Landrum on Friday night. Appreciate Gavin and Tolos. Appreciate you as well. A hump day edition of the show coming your way tomorrow. We'll have MLB postseason to react to, and we will obviously hear from you right here on the Fan Upstate.